So, the jiva purified by seva attains the fruit of that seva in the form of prem. So this is what we want to constantly fill our consciousnesses with, about what is the nature of that prem. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur has so brilliantly, he's walking us through such a process. Appreciate it from the beginning, from the first chapter. The first 10 chapters, we can say, collectively are called Sambandha Gyan. And then we come to the Dasmula section. And in the Dasmula section, we have the Prameya, where it's establishing the platform, the Praman. What is the Praman? The Praman are the words of Smriti, the words of the Puranas, the words of the Srimad Bhagavatam in particular, Gita, the Upanishads. So this is our platform this is the evidence. And then from there, we're hearing the Paramatattva, that supreme truth about Krishna, in that 13th chapter. And then in the 13th chapter also, we hear about Krishna's qualities. They're enumerated for us, 64 qualities in the 13th chapter, to show us what is the actual character of it, to dispel any Mayavad conceptions. These Mayavad conceptions are being chopped and cut in this 13th chapter, very carefully by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Many objections that Brajanath is bringing up, and Babaji is cutting. But the final conclusion of this 13th chapter are these 64 qualities, and all these qualities in the jiva, the qualities in the demigods, and then the qualities in Lord Narayan, and these 4 principal qualities ultimately in Krishna: Prem Madhuri, Rup Madhuri, Leela Madhuri, and Venu Madhuri. These 4 qualities of Krishna. You can't imagine this person doesn't have character once you just even say those 4 qualities. Those 4 qualities indicate a personality who has a beautiful form, who plays the beautiful flute, who has wonderful associates. You can't walk past that. So his personality is irrevocably established in that 13th chapter of the personality of Krishna. And then we come to the rasa understanding. Krishna is raso vaisa. That's the beginning of the 14th chapter. And then it goes into talking about Shakti Tattva. This is all a process. It's all like stepping stones. So we go through that Shakti Tattva, which is an incredible chapter, to deeply understand. Again and again, we should read that chapter. As we've said many times, this book is not just to go through one time. This book is to be our companion for life. For life, we never want to leave these truths, because there's no higher conclusion in philosophy or spiritual aspiration than what is written in this book. It's the collection of all the Shastra. So after the Shakti Tattva explanations, then we have the 3 chapters on Jiva. Jiva Tattva initially, what is the nature of our existence, where do we come from, etc. What is the nature of Tatastha Shakti? This distinction between the 2 aspirations, that we are marginal energy. We're living in this condition. We oscillate. So then we come to the jivas who are bound by Maya. And why are they bound by Maya? That's chapter 16. Chapter 17, the jivas liberated from Maya. Chapter 18, most incredible, this Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva, that we are one with Krishna in the sense that we have the same potency ultimately. Like we just described, the sparks of the fire. The sparks and the fire are the same, essentially. From a spark, you can cause a whole conflagration of fire that could incinerate the whole world if there was enough dry objects for it to incinerate. So a spark can certainly ignite an enormous fire, has the same potency as the fire in that regard. But the spark is infinitesimal. So this is what the 18th chapter really brings out. Then the 19th chapter, most incredible, what is Shuddha Bhakti? And Yabilasata Sunyam, etc., this verse, most important. what is Uttam Bhakti. And then also mentioned in this 19th chapter is Kleshagni, Shubhada, Moksha, the stages of Sadhan Bhakti, Bhav Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. And then this is walking through here, making a platform. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, each chapter is like a step of a stairway, isn't it? And then he's elaborating on that step, making our feet solid on that step, and then going to the next one. So the next one is Vaidhi Bhakti, so important. This is like Achan. This is like what we're performing, the activities with our external bodies, our puja, etc. And how to behave in this material world. What are the various rules and regulations? Or what are the angas? 64 angas of bhakti. And very, very helpful. We didn't have any exchange with all the people listening, etc. We just read it together. But if we were sitting down in a group, collectively in real time sort of thing, I know that practically every single anga there would be discussion about. But in the end analysis, we simply have to bow our heads and accept the angas of Rupa Goswami. He has enunciated these angas for our support and benefit. None of them are to be contended with. If we contend with them, then we have a doubt somewhere, and we need to clear those doubts. We need to go to some senior devotee, guru, whatever, and clear whatever doubt might be there regarding any of those angas, because every single anga is there for a purpose. Personalities like Rupa Goswami, they don't have superfluous instructions to give us. They have specific guidance to give us. And it starts with the first 5 are Guru Padashraya. How important is the connection with Guru? And we discussed all of that amongst the 19th chapter. Then the 20th chapter, wait a minute, I might be, oh, sorry, that was the 19th chapter. No, that was the 20th chapter. That was the 20th chapter. I'm just seeing if you're awake. Okay, listening? People are awake. So the 19th chapter was the introduction to Shuddha Bhakti. The 20th chapter is Vaidhi Bhakti. And now we're coming into this most remarkable chapter of Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti, Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti. And these topics are to be appreciated initially, internally. Raganuga Bhakti is an internal path. Vaidhi Bhakti is the external, Achan. Raganuga is the bhajan. There's distinction here. I sent one audio around today from my Gurudev, and he's explaining something of this.
Can you repeat, sorry?
Achan is the external, the rules and regulations, how to behave correctly in the world. And the internal is our bhajan, is our reflection, introspection. And that doesn't necessarily have a voice piece, so to speak. It's something that is very confidential within the heart. It doesn't have to be pasted on Facebook every time you have a epiphany go off or some type of realization go off. You know, we're not looking for kudos in the material world according to our various internal appreciations. They're not for other people. Otherwise, everything just gets lost completely when we try to verbalize various realizations that we might have had. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to give us these guidelines very carefully. So we start off with this chapter. But what I'm just trying to explain is the sequence. I don't want any of us to miss the beauty of the sequence that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving here. Going through the chapters, capturing each chapter, knowing what each chapter has in its jewels and gifts, and how it's an accumulative effect of where we're coming to. It's like a snowball effect. We're building up basically to come into this chapter now. It's like we read the first 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam before we have the eligibility to come into the 10th canto. If we don't have knowledge of these first 9 cantos, something's going to be very much missing. Definitely. The respect and veneration for the path will be missing if we don't honor the first 9 cantos. So if we haven't honored these first 20 chapters of Jaiva Dharma, we just want to jump to this chapter, for example, then we're not going to really get the full benefits from it at all. There's not going to be the background accumulation of sukriti and sanskar. Every chapter will create a certain type of impression for us. A sanskar will be there. Understand the nature of sanskars when we come in contact with a spiritual experience. And these spiritual experiences happen while we're reading the various chapters. So it's an accumulation of sanskars. These sanskars will go into our next birth. There's two types of sanskars. Praktana sanskar, which means ancient sanskars. We're coming into this birth with ancient sanskars. Then there's adunika sanskar, sanskars that we create now, in this present birth. We don't remember clearly the previous sanskars, but they certainly have an effect on our journey into the world of transcendental awareness. This weight that my Gurudev used to say all the time, that someone who comes to the temple, they may apparently be a very new boy, but his sanskars are remarkable from a previous birth. Whereas somebody may be very old, venerable devotee, but his sanskars are not so strong. So we have to appreciate the importance of this impression. So from each chapter, impressions are made in the heart, on the screen of the heart, and they will go into our next birth. So chapter 21, Prameya, Abhidheya. So we're still in Abhidheya. So we have 3 chapters in Abhidheya here, describing what is sadhana bhakti. Now this is Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti. Vijay Kumar and Brajanath were impressed when they heard the deliberation concerning Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. They became firmly convinced that one must accept Harinam and Diksha from a Siddha Mahatma, great perfected soul, in order to enter the supreme abode. So this is very important. That means they've understood the first 5 angas to connect with Diksha and Shiksha in their spiritual journey. Without this connection, you cannot move forward, because it means submission to that personality. Tadvidi pranipatena pranipashena sevaya. This verse in Bhagavad Gita very clearly saying that one must approach a guru. Tadvidi pranipatena pranipashena sevaya. Shanti Gyaninas tattvadarshinaha, one who is self-realized. It cannot come from any other way. We have to be in touch with that personality who has had divine realization for us to actually get divine. It's an amazing setup, we can say, that Krishna has arranged for. You can't independently of the Guru Varga just connect with the Lord. And Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj always gives the example. You can't just walk into the office of the Prime Minister. You have to go to the secretary. And even to get to the secretary, you have to go through some other people, right? You can't just walk in there. So there has to be a process to actually connect with Krishna. And the process is that submission to Guru. It's a most beautiful process. When that process is performed, the sadhak knows immediately, now I'm in connection, now I'm in the current, I'm in the line, I'm connected. So important. If we're not actually connected, we're not going to have the same opportunity for mercy. It won't come because we haven't made that connection. It's like an electric current. We're just trying to struggle without the connection. And there's reasons why we don't get connected, etc. And that reason is what needs to be purified to move forward. Generally, it's pride. Some type of pride, doubt in those personalities. Guru. So we have to examine that and purify that anartha that is there. But once we go across that, then we're on like a rocket. then things become very easy. So this is what Vijay and Brajanath
So
are.
doubt and pride seem very different.
Well, the pride can be creating doubts. They're not so different in reality. If you have some doubts, it's probably because you're quite proud of your material situation. So pride and doubt. It's described Shraddha, Shabde, Vishvasa, Koi, Sudrita, Nishchoy. This is the verse describing faith. And this Vishvasa describes confidence. When your faith is strong, then you become confident. When your faith is not so strong as to connect with a spiritual master, you don't have that confidence of your spiritual discrimination, we can say. Because it's just you sitting alone, trying to make decisions on what is the right path. But if you're connected to the current, we have the whole support of our Guru Varga. Because Guru is the representative of the entire parampara. He's the one who's sitting at the culmination of all the gurus in our line. We connect with that. By connecting with Guru, we're definitely connecting with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We're definitely connecting with Rupa Goswami, with Sanatana Goswami. We're connecting with all of them. Ultimately with Sachinandan Gaurahari. It's the connecting point. So this was the inspiration that took Vijay and Brajanath at this point. They became firmly convinced that one must accept Harinam and Diksha from a Siddha Mahatma, a great perfected soul, in order to enter the supreme abode. They therefore decided to accept Diksha from Siddha Babaji Maharaj the very next day, so as not to lose any time. So of course someone might immediately object, oh well, where is a Siddha now? I don't have the vision to appreciate a Siddha. Well, that's our unfortunate state, that we haven't cultivated sufficient spiritual respect for all the Vaishnavas. Any Vaishnava practicing has great jewels and great gifts to offer to the world. Any Vaishnava who's doing a semblance of pure sadhana and is not so interested in the material world. But if we have that non-envious mood, that feeling, Krishna himself, this actually is Krishna's department. He will make the arrangement in our lives because he wants us to come out of our conditioned nature. He will make the arrangement for every single jiva to come in contact with someone who is able to actually bring them to a higher stage. Krishna will arrange that one way or the other, in one form or another. Even, for example, like I shared the other day in my own personal life, I had 2 bogus gurus for the first 10, 12 years of my life. But still, I was connected with the temple, doing all the temple activities with great faith, doing all of these things, getting purification, coming close into the understanding of what are the devotional precepts, etc. And then at the right time, my guru now, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, came into my life. So it can be like that. But there's no loss from what I went through before. I've seen devotees who have taken bogus gurus, for example, and when that guru's illicit nature has been revealed, they've just left devotional service. So where does it say for their sincerity? So that's greatly unfortunate. So we should pray to Krishna. By any performance of sadhana, it's going to create sukriti, and what will be the result of that sukriti? It will be to give us an opportunity to connect with Guru. That's the result. Like, for example, if you just think, well, I'll just worship Prabhupada, like the Ritvik group. I won't actually accept a living Guru. This is actually completely bogus. Nevertheless, by just worshipping Prabhupada, you will get the sukriti to come in the presence of a realized soul who you can connect with. That's what it will do. But if you just try to worship Prabhupada separately from that and expect to have higher spiritual realizations, that will never, ever, ever happen. Because you have to have a direct guru. Always it has to be. Bhakti is imparted from one heart to the next heart. It's transmitted. There's a transmission physically that takes place from guru to shishya, to disciple. It's a physical transmission. Is that the right word? Transmission. That takes place in the heart. Connected with affection and a mood of submission. That mood of submission must be there. Otherwise, how can someone who has that jewel actually give it to somebody else? There has to be that acknowledgement that this personality has something that I desperately want. You understand everything? So these are thoughts, topics. I'm trying to imagine what other people are perhaps thinking when they're hearing this, reading this, and trying to answer any questions that might arise.
There in the Bhagavad Gita it says, I personally come, doesn't it? Krishna says.
Yes, so Krishna comes in the form of Guru.
Right.
Krishna will come, Guru and Krishna.
And take care
Sakshat Vitre Nasamasta Shastre. Guru and Krishna are the same. Why is Guru and Krishna the same? Because they both have the same desire for the welfare of the jiva. They both have, confirmed, they both have the same desire. Krishna and Guru have the same desire to bring the conditioned soul out of that darkness. Krishna is waiting. Krishna knows that there's going to be no happiness ultimately in the jiva's life until he connects with transcendence. It cannot happen. But if we're doubtful, we think, yes, I'll get a little bit of material sense gratification before I go, then we'll just remain in the darkness of the Mayic illusion. Vijay Kumar had already received Diksha mantra from his family guru in his boyhood. Rajanath, however, had not received any Diksha mantra other than the Gayatri mantra. They had both clearly understood that the revered Babaji's instructions that the jiva goes to hell if he chants mantras received from a guru who is not a Vaishnava. If he is an Avaishnava. If he's not a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava ultimately means that he's utterly submissive to the Supreme Lord. If he's not utterly submissive to the Supreme Lord, then he's not a Vaishnava. And if you receive mantras from there, you're only going to get a material result, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur says will take you to a hellish condition, or hell itself. If he chants mantras received from a guru who is not a Vaishnava, therefore, according to the regulations of Shastra, when proper discrimination has awakened, he should again take Diksha from a Shuddha Vaishnava guru. When proper discrimination has arisen, that means becoming familiar with the Shastra. Books, for example, like Bhakti Tattva Vivek, which is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given as capsulation of the path of the Siddhanta to come to Krishna. If we've actually absorbed this particular book, it's such a short book, but it delineates clearly what is Uttama Bhakti. That's what the book is about, the 4 lines of that verse, Anyabilasata Sunyam. So if we've had that opportunity, that will waken up a mood of being able to discriminate between who is going to support my sincere desire to come to the transcendental place, the transcendental realm. And I may want mukti initially. That may be my desire, to be liberated. I simply want to connect with a Vaishnava so I can become liberated. That's okay. Because if we get more into the precepts of Vaishnavism, we realize the inferiority of mukti, of moksha. We don't realize that initially because we haven't had sufficient understanding of the path. Everyone who first comes to the devotees, practically everybody, wants liberation. It's a rare soul who actually is hungry to develop his Krishna consciousness. That's not so common, unless you're brought up in a family of Vaishnavas, etc. I'm really addressing the Western devotees now, who don't have those excellent sanskars that many of our Indian brothers and sisters, they have that. So they've come, if they've come from a Vaishnava family, then their hunger to connect is more pure, whereas most of the Westerners don't have that sanskar. So when proper discrimination has awakened, he should again take diksha from a Shuddha Vaishnava guru. This is in the case of Brajana. Practically, one can achieve perfection in the chanting of his mantra very quickly by accepting the mantra from a siddha bhakta. Because when a siddha, a perfected soul, gives you that mantra, he infuses that mantra with the potency to realize the truths contained within the mantra. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us all the Hare Krishna mantra. Every single person who hears the Hare Krishna mantra, even for the first time, something is going to be awakened, because Mahaprabhu has invested all his potency within the Mahamantra. The Mahamantra was there in previous ages, but it was never empowered in the same way that it is today. Like when we go on Harinam Sankirtan, people will hear that. They may react externally or not externally, but there's going to be some effect internally for sure on everyone. It may be the beginning of their journey, but there will be some effect because Mahaprabhu has invested all his potency within the holy name. Nam namakari bahudam nija sharva shaktis tatarpita nyamita smarahina kalaha. That all of his potencies are invested. Particularly, one can achieve... Oh, I read all that. Thinking like this, they both decided that they would go to Mayapur the next morning, bathe in the Ganga, and take diksha from the most revered Babaji. The next morning, they bathed in the Ganga and applied tilak to the 12 places on their bodies. They then arrived before Raghunath Das Babaji. You see, they're already in the line of Vaidhi Bhakti. They're following that regulation of decorating the body with tilak. Decorating the body with tilak is an anga of bhakti. It's an external anga, but at the same time, it has such a potency to it by honoring your body to Krishna, by putting those marks on your body. And when you put the marks on, we put them on with mantra. We should say the mantra, Keshav, Madhav, Govinda, Narayana, Govinda, Vaishnava, Shava, all these, the mantras. Keshav, Madhav, Narayan, Madhav, Govinda, Vaishnava. Yes, go through all these mantras clearly. Krishna loves to hear those names. Madhusudan, Trivikraram. He loves to hear the names. And offered prostrated obeisances at his lotus feet. Babaji Maharaj, being a Siddha Mahatma, a Siddha Vaishnava, understood their minds. But as a matter of etiquette, he said, "Why have you come here today so early in the morning? What is the matter?" Vijay Kumar and Brajanath humbly replied, "O Master, you know that we are very lowly and destitute of spiritual wealth, so kindly take pity on us." Always there's a mood of this dinhin, this humility. Babaji Mahashai was very pleased to hear them speak in this way. Of course, someone's going to be endeared if someone approaches them with humility. Who will not be endeared? You know, even if a son approaches his father with humility, the father will be immediately endeared. Humility is such an attractive quality. It's the most attractive quality. It's the quality that is required for the transmission. He called them into his kutia separately and bestowed upon them the mantra consisting of 18 syllables. This, I understand, is the Gopal mantra. It's not the full, the Guru Gayatri mantra, the Gora mantra and the Gora Gayatri mantras. I'm just trying to understand where the origin of the Gora mantras is from. I have a feeling, I think that they were manifested by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, but I have to do some more research on that to understand that. This is what I'm understanding. Because previously they weren't there in the same way. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he manifested, I believe that. But I have to do some research there. So this 18 syllable one is the Gopal mantra. If we count the syllables in the Gopal mantra, it's 18 syllables. On receiving and chanting the mantra, they both became intoxicated with Mahaprem. How amazing. This Gopal mantra is so potent. There was a time in the history of my Gurudev, it's recorded how he actually brought one dead boy back to life again with the strength of the Gopal mantra. He chanted it loudly in his ear. But when he'd done that, he told the devotees at the time, I will never do that again. That's not the purpose of the mantra. But there was one time when he did that, but he never did it again. It's not to be used in that way. Intoxicated with Mahaprem, and started dancing, crying out, Jai Gauranga, Jai Gauranga. Around their necks they wore 3 strands of tulsi beads. The beautiful sacred thread was draped about their bodies, which were marked with tilak in 12 places. Their faces were charming. They exhibited some sattvic vikar, transformations of ecstasy, and tears flowed incessantly from their eyes. This is an indication, my Gurudev used to explain, of their previous sanskars. All the way through these 2 personalities that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has made the main characters, they've been described like as having tremendous sanskar and sukriti. It's described when they first start chanting Harinam, immediately they experience Shuddhanam. Immediately. This indicates their sanskar and sukriti. Tears flowed incessantly from their eyes. When Babaji Mahashai saw such beautiful forms, he embraced them and said, Today you have sanctified me. So from all directions we're hearing the quality of humility demonstrated by Vijay, Rajanath and Babaji. Again and again they relished the dust from Babaji's lotus feet and rubbed it on their heads and on all their limbs. At that time, in accordance with Brajanath's previous arrangement, their 2 servants arrived with a large quantity of food offerings, bhoga, for Sriman Mahaprabhu. With folded hands, Vijay Kumar and Brajanath requested that the bhoga preparations should be offered, and the venerable chief among the bhaktas of Srivasangam instructed the pujari to offer the bhoga to the deities of the Sri Sri Panchatattva. So this is a very sweet picture we're getting here. Conch shells and bells sounded, and the Vaishnavas took up cymbals, kartals and mridangas and began to sing the Bhoga Arati song before Sriman Mahaprabhu. Many Vaishnavas gathered, and the Bhoga offering was accomplished with great ceremony. Arrangements were then made for distributing prasad in the Natya Mandir dancing hall. Hearing the loud sounds of Harinam, all the Vaishnavas assembled together, bringing their lotas with them. So, smart. Then they loudly chanted the glories of Mahaprasad and began to honor Prasad. Brajanath and Vijay Kumar did not want to sit down immediately because they were waiting for Mahaprasad, the remnants of the Guru and the Vaishnavas. However, the foremost of the respected Babajis made them sit down, saying, You are Grihastha Vaishnavas. We will be blessed by offering prostrated obeisances unto your lotus feet. So that's very beautiful.
It's not clear.
Saying that they are Grihastha Vaishnavas, we will be blessed by offering prostrated obeisances unto your lotus feet. They are recognizing that they are residents of the Dham. Perhaps these Vaishnavas may not have been born in the Dham that are saying like that, but they're seeing the effulgent nature of these 2 personalities after they've received their Diksha mantra from Babaji. And they're seeing the beauty of these Vaishnavas, so they're ready to give them all respect.
So it's not related to them being grihastas, but they want to give them respect.
And it's just a symbol of their humility to praise them in their...
No, it can't be to do with them being necessarily Grihasta Vaishnavas. I mean, a Grihasta Vaishnava is not necessarily superior to a Brahmachari Vaishnava. So,
It seems to me just to be a mark of humility. Just...
yes, well, that's the overall expression here.
Mm.
That's what I understood always previously.
It doesn't matter if it's Grihasta or this or that.
Yes, perhaps he's just quoting out, you are Grihasta Vaishnavas like that, because that's the truth. They are Grihasta Vaishnavas, even though Brajnath isn't married and Vijay Kumar is more or less separated from his wife, but they're considered to be Grihasta Vaishnavas. So it's an expression of humility, that's how I interpret it. You are Grihasta Vaishnavas, we will be blessed by offering prostrated obeisances unto your lotus feet. So because of their demonstration of such humility, not sitting down, wanting to serve, wanting to wait for the Maha-Maha-Prasadam, the Vaishnavas have recognized this quality and they're ready to offer them respects. And just like in the very beginning, Prem Das Babaji, when he receives Sannyasi Thakur, he offers him obeisances immediately, even though he's in the dress of a Brahmagyani sannyasi. He's still offering him obeisances, asking for his mercy. He's still asking for his mercy. So it's kind of connected with what we were saying about searching for a Siddha Mahatma Guru. We can ask for the mercy in any respectable Vaishnava. You understand? I think we understand more as we go through. I'll just read a little bit more. Time is almost gone. So Vijay Kumar and Brajnath said humbly with folded hands, you are great renounced Vaishnavas. So that's the distinction, renounced Vaishnavas. We will be very fortunate if we can partake of your ambrosial remnants, and it will be an offense if we sit with you. So it's reciprocal exchanges here. The Vaishnavas replied, so far as Vaishnavism is concerned, there is no difference between a householder and renunciant. Vaishnavas are compared only according to their devotion. The more advanced Vaishnava is simply the one who has the deeper devotion for Sri Krishna. Such an important paragraph. It's the degree of devotion which places any Vaishnava in a superior position. To assist another Vaishnava, what is the degree, the extent of their devotion? Understand? It's a beautiful paragraph. They all sat together conversing in this way and honoring Prasad. It's indicative also of their understanding of Tattva and Siddhanta. This is what they are saying, immediate response. It's not like a lax conversation or anything like that, but they're expressing there is no distinction between the householder and the renunciant. They all sat together conversing in this way and honoring Prasad, but Vijay Kumar and Brajnath waited quietly, faithfully keeping their Prasad in front of them. Some of the Vaishnavas who were respecting Prasad noticed this and, understanding their motive, said to Raghunath Das Babaji, O chief of the Vaishnavas, please be kind to your faithful disciples, otherwise they will not take Prasad. When elderly Babaji heard the Vaishnava's request, he gave some of his Prasad to Vijay and Brajnath. They accepted his remnants with great faith, uttering Shri Guruve Namaha, and began to honor Prasad. While the bhaktas were taking Prasad, some would call out, Sadhu, Savadan, be very careful not to overeat, and all glories to the greatness of the Prasadam. Oh, what an unprecedented splendor arose in the Natya Mandir of Srivasangam at that time. Everyone perceived Sri Sachidev, Sita, and Malini Devi bringing Prasad, while Sriman Mahaprabhu sat and lovingly took that Prasad with his dear associates. So this is the pastime that takes place in Srivasangam. Malini is the wife of Srivas Thakur. Sita is the wife of Advaita Acharya. Sachi Devi is the mother of Mahaprabhu. So these mothers have prepared the prasadam here in Srivasangam, and they're bringing that out. Seeing this, the Vaishnavas forgot to take their own prasad. They all watched motionless while tears of great joy gently trickled from their eyes, and their hands, which were in the act of bringing prasad to their mouths, remained fixed for as long as this Leela was manifest. After a short time, the Leela disappeared from their sight, and they gazed at one another and wept. Amazing. We don't hear too often of these pastimes happening at the moment, but still, historically, these pastimes would happen with their deeper devotion. Then the sweet taste of that prasad defied description. In other words, it's been blessed directly by Mahaprabhu. As if with a single voice, all the bhaktas said, "These two sons of Brahmanas are recipients of Gaur Hari's mercy." For this reason, Sriman Mahaprabhu has manifested his Leela in this festival today. So very, very beautiful exchange. So we'll continue tomorrow. And we need to have more paintings, pictures of these beautiful festivals, and these exchanges with these moods can be portrayed within beautiful paintings for us. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the greatest artist. He's always creating a beautiful image of the Vaishnava behavior and how they interacted with each other.
Regarding what we just read in the beginning, that they understood that it's very important to have Diksha and Harinam. What about examples of devotees who they take Diksha and they take instructions from Guru, but then later they they do other things and they change their way, they go another path?
There's always choice. Prabhu, we have independence. You can't blame the Guru for that.
No, I'm not blaming. I'm just asking, are they becoming bereft of the mercy of the Guru by
They have chosen to disregard the mercy of Guru. Guru is giving mercy always. If the Guru is sincere, he's always giving mercy. But if someone independently doesn't want to take that mercy, what can the Guru do except pray for his welfare? Because we see this often. Actually, more people leave than stay. So it's a very common occurrence. But always we appreciate the independent nature of the jiva in every single condition. If you're given an incredible plate of Mahaprasad, you still have the independence to take it or leave it. It's still up to you whether to capitalize on that opportunity or not. Always. Because ultimately our independent rasa is going to manifest. We have our independence. And you can't, that's inherent. So a demonstration of that is just to even leave Sadguru and wander off independently, trying to enjoy something separate from the connection with Guru. So what can you do for that? Okay? Clear? Jai. Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Hopefully we can read more tomorrow. We'll go further into it. Jaiva Dharma ki jai. Okay, so we're into page 486, and we've just been describing, it was just described, the ceremony and the feast that ensued afterwards of the Diksha mantras that Vijay and Brajanath obtained from Babaji. And then we were hearing about the spurti, or the manifestation of Mahaprabhu, and with the their wives, or the mother, Sachimata, was it Sachimata, and Malini Devi, and Sita Devi. They all had a spurti of these personalities. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is taking us in very seriously into this realm of Gaura Dham and giving us a beautiful picture of how we can live in this Gaura Dham. So we'll continue with this description today. Brajanath and Vijay Kumar wept and said, this is after they've seen this beautiful spurti, "We are worthless, wretched and destitute. We know nothing at all. We could only see all these things today by the causeless mercy of our Guru and the Vaishnavas. Today our taking birth has become meaningful." These types of impressions that they're receiving here are going to be with them eternally, because these are eternal impressions. When we have these types of impressions in the groups of Vaishnavas, then they form a sanskar on the screen of the heart forever. These are good impressions. When Vijay Kumar and Brajanath had honored Prasad, they took permission of the Vaishnavas and returned home. From that day on, they bathed daily in the Ganga and then offered Dandavat Pranam at the feet of their preceptor. They would then take darshan of the deity forms of Sri Krishna in the mandir and circumambulate Tulsi. In this way, they accepted some kind of instruction every day. Very pointed instruction that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving us. Every day we need to have these engagements where we're visiting a temple, or we're honoring Tulsi, we're performing our various individual pujas, but somehow to be connecting daily with these transcendental objects to go forward. In this way, they accepted some kind of instruction every day. After 4 or 5 days had elapsed, they presented themselves one evening at Srivasangan. Sandhya Arti and Nam Sankirtan were already over, and Sri Raghunath Das Babaji sat in his kutia, softly chanting Sri Nam in a sweet voice. They both offered Dandavat Pranam at his lotus feet, and he lovingly placed his lotus hand on their heads, seated them, and inquired about their welfare. Brajanath saw this as an opportunity and said, "Master, by your mercy, we have properly understood Vaidhi-sadhana-bhakti. Now we are very anxious to understand Raganuga-bhakti, so kindly instruct us about this." So the last chapter was all about Vaidhi-sadhana-bhakti. Babaji was extremely pleased to hear this and said, "Sri Gaurachandra has taken both of you." There's, oh, Chuda. Someone is in the temple waiting to come up. She's coming. Okay. Babaji was extremely pleased to hear this and said, "Sri Gaurachandra has taken both of you as his own, so there is nothing that should not be given to you. Listen very carefully as I explain Raganuga-bhakti." You've just come in time. Just going to explain Raganuga-bhakti. First, I offer my Dandavat Pranams again and again at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami, whom Sriman Mahaprabhu liberated from the association of the Muslims. Remember the pastime when Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and Balaba, the brother, third brother, they were working in Ramkeli for the Muslim government. And if sometime on a parikrama you go to Ramkeli, it's about 6 miles north of Navadvip, you can see the remnants of the Muslim kingdom, and huge walls, massive buildings were obviously there. It's just like the skeletons left now, but you can still appreciate how big that city was. It was the ruling place of the whole of Navadvip at that time, and this was where Rupa and Sanatan were working as the Prime Minister and the Secretary or the Treasurer. So Mahaprabhu came there and liberated them, literally. He came there, they had his darshan, and straight afterwards, Rupa Goswami left. And a few months after that, Sanatana Goswami left. So he directly liberated from the Muslims. And another point that I'm always thinking and appreciating is that whenever Babaji starts to speak, he always offers these prayers, his praman, and we should always do the same. If we're going to speak something with authority, we have to, first of all, put our head at the authority's feet that we're going to be speaking about. We have to chant their mantras, etc. Every time before we begin our reading, we go through the whole Guru Varga, invoking their mercy so that our listening will be successful. So always this principle must be there. Lotus feet of Rupa Goswami, whom Sriman Mahaprabhu liberated from the association of the Muslims, and to whom he instructed Rasa Tattva at Prayag. Straight away afterwards, Rupa Goswami, he escapes and he meets Mahaprabhu in Prayag. And for 10 days at the Dashamedha Ghat, he sits and he hears basically all of the tattva of the Bhakti Rasamrita, Sindhu. All was actually given to Rupa Goswami at that time. And Anupam was there also at the same time. I then take shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, who is like a black bee tasting the nectar of that Brajaras. The supremely merciful Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu liberated him from the bottomless pit of gross materialism. Really, he was in a difficult situation. His father and uncle were so wealthy, and they had such a strong desire for him to take over that wealth. And he was married to the most beautiful wife. In every way, they tried to shackle him down. But his greed took him away from even that most opulent situation, which is remarkable. So Mahaprabhu liberated him from that, literally. Then by entrusting him within the hands of Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami, he bestowed all perfection on him. Yes, when he arrived in Puri, Mahaprabhu takes him and delivers him to Swarup Damodar. And he stays with Swarup Damodar in Puri for the next 14 years. And he's experiencing directly, firsthand, all of Mahaprabhu's ecstatic manifestations and teachings. So Raghunath Das was entirely blessed, our Prayojan Acharya. Now, before describing Raganuga-bhakti, so he's taking shelter of Rupa and Raghunath in this paragraph. It's Rupa and Raghunath who he's begging their mercy from. Just like Krishnadas Kaviraj, at the end of each chapter, he begs for the mercy of Rupa and Raghunath. Rupa and Raghunath are the principal personalities that we want to have mercy, to understand this Rag Marg, this Raganuga Bhakti. Now, before describing Raganuga Bhakti, I should explain the Swarup of Ragatmika Bhakti. Brajanath. But I would first like to know what is Rag. So Brajanath is interrupting here, but it's necessary for him to know something more basic than just straight into Ragatmika Bhakti. So Babaji, when materialistic people are in contact with the objects of the senses, they naturally become deeply attached to an endless variety of material sense enjoyment. This intense attachment in the heart is called Vishaya Rag. Vishaya means enjoyer, the enjoyer. Krishna is the Vishaya. He is the enjoyer. And we are trying to usurp his position by becoming the enjoyers of this material world. So this is like how we can understand the nature of Rag. When they glance upon some beautiful object, the eyes become restless with desire. And in the heart, there is an attraction, ranjakata, towards the object of beauty and attachment, rag, to it. So he's giving us a material description of the nature of rag. Rag bhakti is the state in which Krishna becomes the sole object of rag. So we know all about greed, we know all about attraction, but when this attraction is focused exclusively on Krishna, then it becomes Raganuga-bhakti. Srila Rupa Goswami has defined the word rag in the following way. Iste svarasika raga paramavistata bhavet tanmayi ya bhavet bhakti satra ragatmikodita. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 12272. Rag is the unquenchable loving thirst, prema mai trishna, for the object of one's affection. Trishna means thirst, one's affection, which gives rise to spontaneous and intense absorption. Swarasiki parama vistita. In that object, Ragamaya Bhakti is the performance of seva, such as stringing garlands with such intense rag. To please and serve, stringing garlands is a direct activity that we can perform in service directly to the divine couple. Like when we're doing deity worship, also we can be having that mood. While I'm doing this for Radha and Krishna, we can be cultivating that conception. Rag is the absolute parama and undivided svarasiki, absorption, avistita, in one's own particular object of worship. When devotion to Krishna comes to the stage of Ragamayi, it is called Ragatmika Bhakti. In summary, it can be said that intense hankering for Krishna that is saturated with prem-mayi, is called Ragatmika Bhakti. Try to understand what we've just said so far. The essential quality of Raganuga Bhakti is greed, lolyam, lob. This is the essential quality, in contrast to the quality of Vaidhi Bhakti, which is fear and we're following the regulations out of fear, yes. It's not spontaneous. Fear and intelligence.
I have a question.
Huh?
One question.
What?
Vishaya Raga, it's example about only eyes.
Yes.
Can we say...
On the inner eye you can say, you can...
Hearing psychic, this object, not
Yes, and it creates an impression within the consciousness.
music or something.
Yes, connecting with Krishna.
It is Vishaya Raga, it's not only vision, not only object. It is maybe smell or music like this.
For Krishna.
No. I mean, it's a strong attachment called Vishaya Raga. It is material Raga. So after sentence, for example, eyes see beautiful objects.
Yes.
This object can be, for example, sound or
Yes.
smell.
Yes. To enjoy something for the material senses is mayik. But to enjoy something for Krishna's pleasure in a mood of service, it's the service. If you, like, what does love mean? Love means, it's a verb, to love. And that means service is the symptom of love. So if I'm translating my mood towards Krishna to manifest some type of service, like it says in the verse, stringing garlands, it's a direct activity. Understand? So then it's connecting with the spiritual potency rather than the material potency. But he explained this rag in the sense, it was an example. First of all, we're coming from what is rag in the material world, and then he's dovetailing that understanding into appreciating what is spiritual rag. Okay? It is, yes, so lobh, mayi, this greed is the symptom. And based on scriptural injunction and fear is the qualities of Vaidhi Bhakti. But we have to follow Vaidhi Bhakti until we're qualified for Raganuga. That's going to be explained. It is auspicious that a person in whose heart such rag has not arisen should strive to cultivate such bhakti by behaving according to vidhi. Very important. According to the rules and regulations. If that spontaneous desire has not arisen, then we have to be very carefully following the angas of bhakti, the rules and regulations of Shastra. The principles at work in Vaidhi Bhakti are fear, respect, and reverence, whereas the only principle at work in Raganuga Bhakti is lobha, or greed, in relation to Krishna's Leela. So it's saying everything here. We personally have to read these chapters ourselves and appreciate every single sentence that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was giving us. It's very clear, very clear. Brajanath, who has the adhikar qualification for Ragmayi Bhakti? Now again, as I mentioned before, we should take note of where this is being described, because many people will ask this question. So we should know that it's in the 21st chapter right at the beginning. Where is the definition described here? So, Babaji, Vaidhi Shraddha bestows the adhikar for Vaidhi Bhakti. And similarly, Lobhamaya Shraddha, faith imbued with greed for Krishna's Brajalila, bestows the adhikar for Ragmaya Bhakti. Understand that? If you are performing Vaidhi Bhakti, that will give you the eligibility to perform it. By doing it, you will get the eligibility to perform. I want to worship the deity, I want to do this Archan Seva, so you will be bestowed the adhikar to perform that seva. And if you want to go in the direction of spontaneous attraction, if that is your desire from what you understood or heard, then you will be bestowed the adhikar to perform that spontaneous seva. It's just dependent on the desire of the sadhak. Really. How strong is the desire? Many times it's mixed. Many times we're coming from a Vaidhi conception and we want to focus on Rag Marg, and we're in transition to moving in that direction. And we're filling our various readings and chantings with a focus in the direction of the Braja Leelas. We're always trying to hear the pastimes of Rupa Goswami that he's describing in Vidagdha Madhava, etc., or in Chaitanya Charitamrita in particular. There are so many indications there. Mahaprabhu has come to give this Rag Marg. Practically every chapter of Chaitanya Charitamrita points in this direction. We are recipients of Mahaprabhu's mercy, so we have so much support in this direction, in this birth. Everything is there. And we're in, right now, where we are here, speaking from, is in Goradam, where there's so much atmosphere and inspiration towards Mahaprabhu's internal meditation and reflection, which actually manifests most dramatically in Puri, which is where the Antya Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita takes place, all the chapters there in the last part of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we have all these indications. At the same time, we have to very strictly follow the rules and regulations externally. We're in these bodies, and how we behave externally is very important. We can't disregard the angas of bhakti in the name of Raganuga until we're right on that platform and we spontaneously or naturally give up those activities that are not conducive to my immersion, my deep thoughts on Rag Marg. You understand? It's a process. It's a process. Sometimes it just happens for some individuals, but most of us, it's a process of purification. I'm going to read that again. Vaidhi Shraddha bestows the adhikar for Vaidhi Bhakti. And similarly, Lobamai Shraddha, faith imbued with greed for Krishna's Brajalila, bestows the adhikar for Ragmaya Bhakti. Try to understand this yourself. The bhav of the Brijbasis towards Krishna is the supreme example of Ragatmika Bhakti. One who has the great fortune to have greed, lobha, to obtain the same bhav, sentiment, as the Brijbasis have towards Krishna, has the adhikar for Raganuga Bhakti. So, for example, we have the Upadeshamrita. Again, Rupa Goswami is guiding us. So we have the first 7 verses that are bringing us into a point of the 8th verse, Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtano, Smitya Kramana Rasana Manasidyoche, Tishtem Braje Anuragi Janugami, to follow in the footsteps of the Brijbasis. This is what he's saying. But where has he come from to say that? He's come from Vacho Vegam Manasakra Vegam, Atyahara Prayasyascha, Utsahan Nishayat Taryat, Dadati Pradagnati Guyam. These verses in the Upadeshamrita are like stepping stones to come to this verse, Tannama Rupa. And Krishna Nam is described just before that. It's such a sublime stepping ladder, especially for Western minds. We like that sort of clearly defined path, that there's no ambiguity about the way Rupa Goswami is giving us this Upadeshamrita. And the last verses of Upadeshamrita come to Radha Kund, understand the nature of Manjari Bhav. This is the last verse of the 11th verse of Upadeshamrita. It's a complete sequence, just in 11 short verses. Encapsulates the entirety of the journey into Raganuga Bhakti. So it's just... Huh? Manashiksha, yes.
Verse 3.
Yes.
Third, explained how we can achieve with Raganuga
Yes.
Bhakti, because we should do obeisances with love.
Yes. Yes. Where to place what is the object of our attraction and love. Manashiksha is showing the same thing for Swarup Damodar, for all the parakas with Mahaprabhu. It's explaining it clearly. Raghunath Das is the Prem Prayojan, or the Prayojan Acharya. And Rupa Goswami is the Abhidheya Acharya. But without Rupa and Raghunath together, we can't enter. So we have to look at what has Rupa and Raghunath given us. We can practically say they've given us the Chaitanya Charitamrita, because every single chapter at the end, I've just said, Krishnadas Kaviraj is glorifying Rupa and Raghunath. That's the direction he's going. Because that was what Mahaprabhu, what is it? Prem Ras Niryase Korite Ashwadan Rag Mag Bhakti Loke Korite Prajan. He's giving us. This is what he's giving us. This Raganuga Bhakti. So Mahaprabhu has made it so simple for us with Rupa and Raghunath. I'm going to read that last sentence again. One who has great fortune to have greed, lobha, to obtain the same bhav, sentiment, as the Brajbasis have towards Krishna, has the adhikar for Raganuga Bhakti. That's what that verse says, Tannama Rupa. This Braje Anuragi Tishtam. This is saying, following in the footsteps of the Brijbasis. Brajanath, what are the symptoms of such lobha? Very interesting question. Babaji, when one hears about the intensely sweet bhavs of the Brijbasis, one's intelligence, buddhi apeksh, begins to consider how one may enter into those dealings. That desire, apeksha, is the symptom that lobha has awakened. Understand that? I'll read it again. When one hears about the intensely sweet bhavs of the Brijbasis, one's intelligence, buddhi apeksh, begins to consider how one may enter into those dealings. How can you enter into the pastimes of Radha and Krishna? We start to think about that when we get touched by the sublime relationships that are portrayed by Rupa Goswami, for example, between Lalita, Vishaka, Madhu Mangal, Subal, Krishna, Radha, all of the different holy places, all of the different pastimes, so many pastimes, Surya Kund, Radha Kund, Govardhan, Varshana, Nandagaon, all these different places. This is Braja Prem, Braja Ras. This is why the month of Kartik is so important, to go through all these places. Every single year we go to all these places during the month of Kartik. This is what my Gurudev gave to us for 31 days, 30 days, every single day. Maybe 6, 7 places, visiting, touching. So important. Every year, again and again and again. And same in Goradam, all the places here also. Why? To inspire this lobha, this greed. A person who has the adhikar for Vaidhi Bhakti tests everything on the platform of intelligence, knowledge of Shastra, and reasoning. So for most of us, this is what we do. Most of us are in this path of Vaidhi Bhakti, but we're aspiring for Raganuga-bhakti. But we're following the injunctions of Vaidhi Bhakti. Be clear on this. Don't suddenly think I can catapult off independently. What was that talking? What is it? Check out. Check it. What is it, son? See.
For example, if we listen to Harikatha, Shilnarayan Goswami Maharaj, the recording,
Yeah.
it is example enough for
It's something. There are so many.
We
He's saying, can we listen, or is this an example of hearing, listening to my Gurudev Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj describing these things? So he's describing these things very clearly. If we can develop the greed to listen to these topics, then of course there are so many things that will assist us, but this is one of the things. Because all of this practice, our practice of Raganuga, it has to be gone on daily. We're on page 489. This is a very important point about the adhikar that we're discussing. Who has the adhikar? What is the adhikar? What does it mean? Who is qualified for this path? And the qualification that we're understanding is greed, enthusiasm, exclusive greed, one-pointed greed, with no other. If we really want this to manifest in our consciousnesses, if we desire this, if we're ready to die for this, that has to be, I mean, dying really means the death of the material attraction. That's what it really means. Die to live. Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj say this all the time. Die to live. Let this material conception die. This Vishaya in the material world, towards the material objects, die. Because it's interesting, he was saying in the beginning, the nature of Rag, the description is attraction to the objects of the senses. And that attraction is replaced with Krishna. Instead of the objects of the senses, we're replacing that natural attraction to Krishna. So it's like we have to change tracks, so to speak. It's not so easy for the consciousness to do that after living in millions or billions of bodies that have not gone in that direction.
It's more easy in Navadvip.
Huh?
It's more easy to do Navadvip Dham.
In Navadvip Dham, it's actually more merciful. Yes. Navadvip Dham is Audarya. Yes, very difficult. Everyone should come quickly to Goradam. If you're greedy, because my Gurudev used to say all the time, if you can't come and live here, then at least be here by mind. And we were once in a festival in Miami, and Sripad Bhaktivedanta Padmanabha Maharaj was speaking. He was speaking on this verse, Tan Nama Rupa Charitati, in front of my Gurudev and many people. And he said, if one cannot come to Vrindavan, then one should come by mind. And my Gurudev just said, no. He interrupted him when he was speaking. He said, no. Everyone looked around, what? And then my Gurudev said, yes, carry on. And then again, Padmanabh Maharaj said the same thing. And again, my Gurudev said, no. So then Padmanabh Maharaj, he turned to Gurudev and said, well, what? And then Gurudev said to all the people, he said, if you can afford to come here to Miami to a festival, you can afford to come for some weeks in Vrindavan. If you have a little bit of greed, even a little bit, because it is what you're saying is true, that the availability of these moods in the atmosphere of Vrindavan in particular, and of course Goradam, so merciful, it will be bestowed so much easier when you're chanting Nam in these holy dhams. It's so simple. Sometimes in the Western world to chant Nam some days, because the Mayic energy is so oppressive, it's almost like you're walking through molasses each step trying to chant. It's such a struggle. It can become like that if we're not connected strongly to our Guru Varga. It can become very difficult. So, in principle, everything is there for us. It's like we've been offered such a feast. And it's our choice how much we eat and what we eat, isn't it? We put the plate in front of us and I have my independence to actually choose, yes, I want this. How much do you want this? This is the age of procrastination. We always say, yes, I want it, but we don't do anything about it. Just spinning our wheels like that. But we are going to die. All of us, believe it or not, are going to die. We have to realize we will leave the bodies. And this incredible golden opportunity, it's golden because it's got an atmosphere of Sri Radhika, and that golden avatar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the embodiment of Radhika, is giving us this opportunity. It's up to us. It always comes back up to us. You can say as many things as we like, but ultimately it's the individual to make that decision in his own life. This greed, how strong is the greed? So he's just again contrasted that on the path of Vaidhi Bhakti, there's always the consideration for the intelligence, knowledge of Shastra and reasoning. But this is not desired on this path of spontaneity. It's not dependent on intelligence. So if I have a lot of intelligence, it can be a burden for me. Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj used to say that. You say material intelligence is no support for this path of Raganuga Bhakti at all. It's actually a hindrance. Because with that material intelligence, we get the abhiman of being someone special. As soon as we think we're someone special, then we've lost an opportunity. All that is needed is the greed for the sentiments of the Brijbasis. Amazing. So little is actually needed, but it's such a quantum leap for us to have faith in that and do it. What are the sweet bhavs of the Brijbasis towards Krishna? Is it possible for me to obtain such bhavs? How can this be obtained? This intense yearning is the symptom of greed, and one who does not have it does not have the adhikar for Raganuga Bhakti. This you should understand. Very clear. I'm going to suggest that everyone who's listening reads this again for themselves. These are very, very intensely important statements that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is sharing here for our path towards Raganuga Bhakti. Brajanath. Now we come to the more technical, we can say. What is the process of Raganuga Bhakti? Okay, now we understand what is the adhikar, which is greed. This is not a small thing. It's a huge thing. The greed to leave the comforts perhaps of the Western world, for in talking about Western people. My Gurudev was always very particular, always trying to accommodate the Westerners, building a nice temple with bathrooms and this and that, so that they would not feel they were missing any material facilities. They could still indulge in their parikrama at the same time as have some material comforts. But without these material comforts, there will also be great mercy will come. For example, just to share with the viewers, the people watching, in the summer season, when it really, really gets uncomfortable materially, I promise you, that's when the real mercy starts to come. That's when we really question, why am I here? 44 degrees out in the sun, and inside can be very difficult. All kinds, and in wintertime, it's very cold. It's not by degrees as cold in the West, but none of the constructed houses have, you know, what do you call it, internal heating arrangements. So it's very cold inside. Actually, Radhakund is the hottest place practically in the different dhams, and at the same time it's the coldest place. So that physical austerity is there. And if someone is willing to undergo that, the mercy that can come. I can remember so many years sitting in Vrindavan, and the heat was so intense, we'd sit in the street on two corners, look for a corner where there might be some tiny little breeze coming, and just sit there waiting for a little bit of breeze to cool us down, basically. And at that time, so much mercy directly comes. Oh, you're willing to put up with this for the auspicious goal of coming into Brajadam. If you are willing to, this is greed. I'm willing to drop my material attachments. I have to be greedy to move forward away from it.
Is there any difference between Loba and Lauliam? Any
Same.
nuance? Just
Exactly the
different?
same. Exactly the same. The sadhak who has, Babaji's answering, the sadhak who has developed greed towards the beautiful service mood, seva, of a particular Brijabasi, always remembers and meditates on his seva to that personality. So who is this Brijabasi that we're looking to put prominently in our hearts? Is Sri Radhika. He is absorbed in the natural pastimes of his beloved Sri Krishna with that Brijabasi, and he constantly resides in Braj, either physically or within the mind, having agreed to obtain his or her bhav. But it's very difficult to stay in the mind if you're not actually here. It's not so easy. We can imagine it and so on. But actually I was just reflecting, when you read the prayers of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, this Kalyana Kalpataru, or what's the other one called? What's that book called with Bhaktivinoda Thakur's face? That's the Kalyana Kalpataru, I think. Yeah. So that Sharanagati and the, just forgotten those other two. I'll get it in a minute. But the books of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he really enunciates that greed, that mood, that hankering, that restlessness to be merged in that Amal Prem Seva. Just like he said in the last verse today, we're reading from the Val Shruti. Constantly resides in Braj, either physically or within the mind, having agreed to obtain his or her bhav. He follows that Brijabasi's example and always renders seva in two ways. Externally, he serves as a practicing sadhak, and internally, he renders seva with the bhavs, bhavana, purvaka of his siddhadeya. This is the process of Raganuga-bhakti. Seva sadhak rupena, siddha rupena chatrahi. This is another verse by Rupa Goswami. It's describing the two parallels of the internal siddha, the perfected state, and the external sadhak. The external sadhak is following carefully the rules and regulations. He's following Ekadashi, he's following all these different principles, but internally, he's connecting in Amala Prem Seva to the Supreme Lord. This is the process. This is what Mahaprabhu is giving us. Do we want it or not? How much do we want it? $1 million we want it? $10 million we want it? $1 billion we want it? How much do we want it? However much you want it, you'll get it. Brajanath, what is the relationship between Raganuga Bhakti and the Angas of Vaidhi Bhakti? Very nice question. The Angas of Vaidhi Bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtanam, and so on, are also included in the Raganuga sadhak's practice. The sadhak follows the eternal residence of Braj, and consequently, he tastes the eternal bliss of service. At the same time, he observes the Angas of Vaidhi Bhakti with his external body. This is what I just said. This verse, what is it? Sadhak Seva Rupena, Siddha Rupena Chatrahi. This verse that the sadhak is carefully following those principles externally with his body. Our bodies are in the material world, and this transcendental connection is in the internal spiritual world. Don't try and merge them together like they're one. Don't try and pretend or imagine that I'm in the spiritual world when I'm attached to different objects of the material world. It has to be completely purified, you understand? But I think this Upadeshamrita is a wonderful journey to begin a comprehension clearly of what this is. Brajanath, please explain the glories of Raganuga Bhakti. Okay, we've gone through the Adhikar, we've compared it to what is Vaidhi Bhakti. The Angas of Vaidhi Bhakti are the same as Raganuga Bhakti ultimately, but they're just an internal reflection on that Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. It's taking you inside rather than outside. This is the nature of the jiva. This is the actual swarup of the jiva. I shared with you before about how Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj mentioned that when we make that choice before we come into the Tatashta, when the glitter of Maya is there, we have a choice to go externally or internally. If we choose to go externally, we come into the Tatashta Shakti. If we choose to go at that point internally, we go back to our original seva in the transcendental realm. So how to become, and in Kali Yuga it's very hard because there's so much pushings to be external. There's so much pressure to be external. Your reputation is very important. You know, our sense of our false ego is very dear to us. Each individual has to work these things through, you understand? It's so beautiful. It's very powerful. Please explain the glories of Raganuga Bhakti. Babaji. Raganuga Bhakti very quickly bestows that fruit which one cannot obtain even by observing the Angas of Vaidhi Bhakti with firm faith Nishta for a long time. Devotion on the Vaidhi Marg is weak because it depends on rules and regulations, whereas Raganuga Bhakti is naturally strong because it is completely independent. With our whole heart we want something. That makes it really strong. It gives it a strength. When one adopts the spiritual conception of following in the footsteps of a loving resident of Braj, Rag is awakened, which always involves following the process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, and Atmanivedanam. The same Angas as we described in Vaidhi Bhakti are there in Raganuga Bhakti. Ruchi for following in the footsteps of the Brijvasis is only awakened in those whose hearts are nirgun. I'll read that again. Ruchi, taste, for following in the footsteps of the Brijvasis is only awakened in those whose hearts are nirgun, devoid of material attributes. So it can't be faked. We do this defect of the human birth is vipralipsa, cheating. We even want to cheat Krishna. We want to try and cheat Krishna by imagining that Krishna doesn't see my real desire. I have to be careful. Ruchi for following in the footsteps of the Brijabasis is only awakened in those whose hearts are nirgun, beyond material attributes. This is why the greed for Raganuga-bhakti is supremely rare and the root of supreme auspiciousness. There are as many types of Raganuga-bhakti as there are of Ragatmika bhaktas. Ragatmika bhakti. Every individual has their own particular rasa with Krishna. We've said so many times. It's not a stereotyped thing that you can just follow and trot along behind everyone else and think that that's going to manifest your svarup in your heart. You have to actually sit yourself a little separate from everything in your chanting and your introspection, from everything, except the mercy of the Vaishnavas that you have faith in, and follow them. But nothing's going to manifest in a group conception. It's like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he said clearly that institutions can't help bhakti flourish. And we know all those reasons, etc. Because in institutions they have to have control. Control is a symptom of Vaidhi bhakti. It's also a demonic quality. Fear and control. So this fear is part of Vaidhi bhakti. And control is what I'm trying to do there in Vaidhi bhakti. I'm trying to control things. But spontaneous attraction is liberated from that entirely. It takes a lot of courage, to walk across that line. You give up everything that you've had faith in for the whole life. It's a big thing. How many kinds of Ragatmika bhakti are there? So now we're going into another topic. We're going to stop in a minute. Babaji, there are two kinds of Ragatmika bhakti. That which is based on transcendental lust to satisfy Krishna, Kama Rupa, and that which is based on relationship, Sambandha Rupa. So basically Kama Rupa is that of the gopis, Shringara Ras, and Sambandha is following Vatsalya Bhav or Sakhya Bhav. These are the two distinct paths of Raganuga. Because Sakhya Bhav is certainly in the realm of Raganuga Bhakti. It's not Madhurya, but it's still Rag Mag. Personalities like Subal, Sridham, they have so much Rag and intense greed. Subal, he doesn't even let Krishna's hand go in his dreams. He's always holding. And Sridham, he's praying for the moon to quickly finish its orbit so that he can be again with Krishna the next day. This is Rag. In the Priyanam Sakas, they are there. So this will be described tomorrow. So this is a very powerful chapter. It's the most powerful chapter. It's a pivotal chapter because we've come through the rules and regulations, so to speak, and what is Sambandha Gyan, Abhidheya, Bhakti, etc. Now we're coming to a very sensitive, subtle appreciation, which is going to, if we can grasp it to some degree, we can feel confident. Yes, this is my path. And then with that enthusiasm, with that greed, we can absorb the last 14 chapters. The last 14 chapters are only going to be in this direction of Raganuga Bhakti. Most sadhaks don't hear or read the last 14 chapters of Jaiva Dharma. They just read up to Nam Tattva and then they stop.
Really?
So
Three
many.
times I read it, I could never get beyond.
Because unless we have some greed for it, I can remember even doing the audio. I just did the first 25 chapters and then I waited for 10 years before I did the last 14 chapters. Because I thought they were too confidential just to have on the street, more or less. So I waited that much time, but we'll keep going forward anyway. Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Raganuga mai bhakti ki jai, Loba mai bhakti ki jai, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Ho. So now we're coming to page 490. So far in this chapter, we've discussed Vijay Kumar and Brajanath receiving their Diksha mantras. And we understood that Diksha mantra was the Gopal mantra. And also at the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur writing this, the Kam Bij mantra and the Gopal mantra were like available, so to speak, as was the Brahma Gayatri mantra. The Brahma Gayatri mantra comes from the Rig Veda, or from Lord Brahma himself. He's manifesting that Brahma Gayatri mantra. Then the Gopal mantra comes from Saraswati Devi. This is the transcendental Saraswati, not the wife of Lord Brahma. This is described in Brahma Samhita, how when Lord Brahma is meditating on the lotus, he hears this Gopal mantra and he begins to perform service to that Gopal mantra. But that Gopal mantra is bestowed by Saraswati Devi. And then later on, after 100 years, it's described then he hears the tapa and he performs austerities. And at that time, he's hearing the Kam Bij mantra, which is coming directly from Krishna's flute sound vibration. So these two mantras, this is the origin of these two mantras. Now the other four mantras, this is Guru Gayatri, Guru Mantra, Gora Mantra and Gora Gayatri. These, my understanding, and I did some research because you asked me this question, are that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has manifested these mantras for our meditation and purification. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati is an exceptional soul. So certainly at the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that's prior to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, these mantras weren't there. So this is why here it's saying that Babaji, he only gave them the one 18-syllable mantra. This is what he says in the beginning of this chapter. It's saying exactly like this. You'll remember they were bestowed this where is it? And take Diksha, then they arrived. Shiksha, where is it? Why we don't stay? Oh, the 8 bestowed upon them the mantra consisting of 18 syllables. One mantra. So these other 4 mantras weren't there. So according to my research and what I've heard previously, many years ago, was that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, in his deepest meditation, manifested, or it was manifested through Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, these 4 mantras, the Guru Gayatri, Guru Mantra, Gora Gayatri, and Gora Mantra. Huh? Kam Gayatri, I said already. Didn't you listen to me? I said was Krishna's flute song. The Kam Bij mantra is coming directly from Krishna's flute.
He didn't give his Kama Gayatri, he gives
Gopal mantra.
only Gopal.
Yes.
So
It gives one mantra. He gives the 18-syllable mantra. But Kama Gayatri was there because we know the pastime of Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur in Radhakund, when he, because it's described that the Kam Gayatri has 24.5 syllables. And Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur could not figure out what the half syllable was, and he was ready to give up his life in Radhakund because he couldn't understand what was the half syllable. And then Srimati Radhika directly manifested in his heart and explained to him it was the bindi, the bindu on top of the what do you call it? The accent, so to speak, on the word, the bindu. This was the half syllable. So then Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur was satisfied. But this is described as a 24.5 syllable. So the Gopal mantra is described as 18 syllable. So it's the Gopal mantra that's been bestowed here. One mantra, it wasn't 2. So this was the mantra that at this time, at different times in different circumstances, there are different mantras given. Brajanath and Vijay Kumar were qualified for this Gopal mantra. This is my understanding. You understand? Not the calm Gayatri mantra. That wasn't what was there. That's 24.5 syllables. Gopal mantra is 18 syllables. And this calm Bij mantra, but the principal point is what it's saying, where did they come from? And the calm Bij mantra definitely originates from Krishna's flute vibration song. That flute song, that's where it's coming from. Such a powerful mantra. And that Gopal mantra is so powerful also. So then they serve the Vaishnavas in this chapter, and they have a spurti of Mahaprabhu manifesting, and the mothers manifesting in Shiva Sangam. Was it Malini and Sita Devi and Sachimata? They all manifest, and all the Vaishnavas. They say, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur is really setting a mood here to begin this chapter on a very high note. And then they ask the question of what is rag. Vijay and Brajanath, they ask about rag. They want to know what is Ragamaya Bhakti. So then they ask what is rag. So then Babaji explains in comparison what is Vishaya rag. Vishaya rag is how the materialist, how is he going to explain rag? First you have to explain what it is in the material world, that intense attraction to attain an object that we want to enjoy, that's Vishaya rag. But when that is purified, and then the desire to please Krishna is replaced there, then it becomes that transcendental rag. Then it becomes, it's described this Ranjakata. Ranjakata at the bottom of page 487 is described there. And then yesterday we were speaking about the qualification. Who has the adhikar for this Ragamoy Bhakti? Who has the adhikar for it? Remember what he was saying? What is saying?
Greed.
Greed. Lobha. Only greed. Greed supersedes the reverence for the rules and regulations. But then we have to understand that the rules and regulations are not given up. They're just, what can we say, superseded. We go higher than that. We go beyond that in Ragamoy Bhakti. The rules and because the rules and regulations are external. The rules and regulations are for the body. If someone's trying to externalize their internal feelings, that is called, we call it loosely sahajya. It's when one's trying to pretend that they've realized something internal and they're trying to demonstrate it externally. That is not Ragamoy Bhakti. Ragamoy Bhakti is when one is very patiently following the internal process of bhajan. Seva sadak rupena, siddha rupena, chatrahi. This internal, not the external. So if someone is demonstrating some moods of like rag mag, you know instantly they haven't understood anything. Not anything. Because Raganuga Bhakti is internal. And Vaidhi Bhakti is external. It's as simple as that. And the Raganuga Bhakta, he will always honor and respect the external rules and regulations. I've said a number of times how Raghunath Das Goswami, he would have like the rules and regulations carved in stone within him. He he's the Prayojan Acharya. He would never, just like my Gurudev, he would never deviate one instant from what was correct behavior, what was correct maryad, what was correct etiquette. Because that has to be, we go to Mangalati, we honor Ekadashi, we honor all the festivals. This is actually all in the realm of Vaidhi Bhakti. But that has to be followed externally by the Ragamoy Bhakti. It's not to be given up until, like Madhavendra Puri, he says one beautiful verse saying, I bid farewell to my so many different acts of, I can't remember the verse entirely, but I'll read it tomorrow or I'll post it. But it's I bid farewell to my Mangalati, I bid farewell to so many different injunctions of Shastra that he's following, because now he's completely immersed in Bhav Bhakti, in service to Radha and Krishna. He says a verse of that nature like that. So on that platform, on that Siddha platform, then you can have the adhikar to leave behind, because the greed has been so potent to take you beyond it. But if that greed is not really there, if we're trying to imitate that greed, any type of imitation is just useless to even think about. It's just totally, utterly bogus. It doesn't get you anywhere, it doesn't get the world anywhere, it's just inauspicious from start to finish. If someone is trying to imitate this path, it means, it indicates zero, -0 sincerity, doesn't it? You know, if someone is trying to be like that. So I have to say that because I think sometimes devotees get confused about this and they try to move forward, but without the support of Vaidhi Marg. So we discussed all this at length. And yes, now we come to this part. Vaidhi Bhakti bestows the adhikar for Vaidhi Bhakti. Similarly, Lovamoy Shraddha, faith imbued with greed for Krishna's Brajalila, bestows the adhikar for Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti is something to be practiced in the heart. This attraction to Vrindavan Dham, this attraction, if we give ourselves the opportunity by spending time in the Dham and associating with those elevated personalities in the Dham, then we can get a semblance of this, because it's only by association that this can actually arise. It can't arise any other way, because it's not in a mental thing. If someone is very knowledgeable and they know all the words and so on about Ragamoy Bhakti or Rasa Tattva, they know how to explain it, but they don't actually taste it or they haven't experienced it. It's a completely different conception, isn't it? It's like all on the intellectual plane. You haven't actually, your heart hasn't actually connected with that. You understand? So we have to connect with someone who is already on that platform. Otherwise, it's not going to be a reality. So now, yes, devotion on the Vaidhi Marg is weak because it depends on rules and regulations, whereas Raganuga Bhakti is naturally strong because it is completely independent. That's why it can't take place in an institution. You can't have a Raganuga Bhakti. It doesn't work if it's independent. In an institution, for example, you can't legislate someone who's actually on this path. Someone who's actually on this path will need to have his independent spontaneity encouraged. And that can't be encouraged. Institutions certainly have their place in the world, because many devotees are practicing carefully Vaidhi Bhakti. So in an institution where you have association, etc., parameters and so on, then it can be supportive. But when we come to the path of Rag Marg itself, then there's very little. Dandavas Maharaj, Dandavas Maharaj, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Hare Bol, Hare Bol. Then it's very it's not necessary. It can't support it. And I've said many times, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has said that Bhakti Devi cannot flourish in an institutional environment. Because Bhakti Devi, you grow some wings. And in an institutional environment, that's not going to be easy to control. So it's just a detail. So this Ragamoy Bhakti is there. Now, we've reached this point. How many kinds of Ragatmika Bhakti are there? Babaji, there are two kinds of Ragatmika Bhakti. That which is based on transcendental lust to satisfy Krishna. To satisfy Krishna. Kam Rupa. And that which is based on relationship. Sambandha Rupa. So yesterday, just before we left, I left on this point, saying basically this Kam Rupa, Ragamoy Bhakti, is about the gopis and their prem. And Sambandha Rup is about desiring this mood of Vatsalya Bhav, or Sakya Bhav, or Dasya Bhav in the Madhurya kingdom, in the Madhurya realm. So now we're going to explain this today. Brajanath, please explain the difference between Kam Rupa and Sambandha Rupa. Babaji, it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.1.30-31, Kamad Vaishad Bayat Snehad Yata Bhaktivishwara Manaha Aveshya Tad Angam Hitva Bhavas Tad Gatim Gata Gopya Kamad Bayat Kamasho Dvaishat Chadadyo Nripa Sambandad Vrishnya Sneyad Yuyam Bhaktya Vayam Bibo. Do you want a book, Maharaj? Just behind you. Give him a book.
It's okay. I
Take
can't
a book.
stay very long. Just
Okay. So now this is the pivotal verse that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to unpack for us. It's very powerful. Okay, this is the translation. Many people have attained the supreme by complete absorption of the mind in devotion through lusty desires, calm. Now we have to understand that we will understand as we read through. Envy, dvesh, fear, bhaya, or affection, sneha, and by giving up family aspects of those sentiments. Faulty, sorry. Yes, correct me each time I make a mistake. My eyes are not so good at the moment. I'm going for an operation, by the way, on Tuesday for a cataract, so just some excuse.
I don't need glasses. I need glasses for reading.
No, I can't use glasses. I need glasses. I can't see you from a distance. The gopis have attained the supreme by fixing their minds on Krishna through calm. Kamsa by bhaya. Shishupal and other kings by dvesh, envy. Shishupal was most envious. The Yadus by family relationships, sambandha. You, the Pandavas, by affection, sneha, and we sages, Narad and other rishis, by bhakti. So now we're going to understand these six principles. Six principles are mentioned here, namely calm, lust, bhaya, fear, dvesh, envy, sambandha, family relationship, sneha, affection, and bhakti, devotion. Two of these, bhaya, fear, and dvesh, envy, should not be imitated because they are unfavorable sentiments. So these are the sentiments that can bring us to Krishna. But these two sentiments will take us to Sarupya Mukti. Sayuja Mukti. This Sayuja Mukti will be the destination of those with, like Kamsa, etc. This was his destination. Now there are two kinds of sneha. The first is associated with Sakya Bhav and is included in Vaidhi Bhakti. So understand that Sakya Bhav is in Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. It's in both. There's a distinction here. You can be Krishna's greatest friend, but you can be in Vaidhi Bhakti. It's not across the boundary of Rag, but there are those Sakyas, those friends of Krishna like Sridham and Subal. They are in this Rag-maya Bhakti, without a doubt. So that is Madhurya. So there's two distinctions here. We have to really read this very, very carefully if we want to understand it something. The first is associated with Sakya Bhav and is included in Vaidhi Bhakti. The second kind is related to Prem, that's like Sridham and Subal, etc., and has no application in the field of sadhan. There's no sadhan across the stage of Prem. We come from, Shraddha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Ruchi, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhav, and then Prem. These are all stages of sadhan. Then we cross that river of Prem and we come Sneha, Man, Rag, Anurag, Bhav, Mahabhav. So these stages are on the other, there's no sadhan there. This is what's going to be clear in the next principle of sneha. The second kind is related to prema and has no application in the field of sadhan, because across the stage of prem, there's no sadhan. Mother Yashoda doesn't perform any sadhan. Nanda Baba doesn't do any sadhan. The gopis don't do any sadhan. The cowherd boys don't do any sadhan.
Even to like Vishnu or anything like this? Like they're
Vishnu, that was way before. That was in billions of lifetimes back, if they were coming from that direction.
They worship Vishnu, no? Like,
They make that respect. They make that respect to the all the personalities are honored. But as far as their heart's connection, certainly not. Certainly not. It's saying, therefore, here we go. The second kind is related to prem and has no application in the field of sadhana. Therefore, sneha has no place in the practice of Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti. You understand that clearly now? This is what we've just explained. Sneha has no place in the sadhana. It doesn't say just Raganuga Bhakti, it says Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti. We're talking about sadhana. Sadhana means the practice. So in Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti, how can sneha be a stage that you have to practice to reach sneha? No. That sadhana is performed at the stage of bhav bhakti, or in the stage of asakti, or in the stage of ruchi, or nishta, in those stages. That's where the sadhana is performed. Understand? Yeah?
not very much.
Sneha
Affection.
is affection. You can't do sadhana to attain spiritual affection. Sneha is the quality that's described in Mother Yashoda in particular. She has this sneha. There's two types of sneha also, Grita sneha and Madhu sneha. But that's just a detail separately, we can talk later. But this sneha is a mood of affection and attraction. It's a natural, spontaneous feeling. It's not something that can be generated by practice. We have that verse, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem, Sadhya Kabunai, Shravanadi, Shuddha, Chitta, Korya Udai, that the sadhya, or the sadhan, is eternally residing within the heart of the jiva. It's not something that will come about by practice. Also, we have that Kriti Sadhya Bhavat Sadhya Bhavsa Sadhanabhida, Nitya Siddhyasya, Prakatam, Kriti Sadhyate. Yeah, this prakatam, this potential. There's no practice to achieve that, these spontaneous emotions. Do you understand now? Clearly.
Pretty clean.
It's not a big point to understand. It's logical, rational. Yeah. The words bhaktya vayam in the shloka mean that we, Narad, and other sages have attained the supreme by bhakti. The word bhakti here should be understood to mean Vaidhi bhakti, and may refer either to Vaidhi bhakti practices of the sages such as Narad, or the devotion mixed with gyan. So two types. That gyan, bhakti mishra gyan, or direct Shuddha bhakti. You understand? This is bhakti, because he's unpacking these 6 principles, and it'll become clear in a minute. Be patient. The words tad gatim gata mean that many people have attained the supreme. So understand that. We've said many times that every single jiva has a different, unique relationship with Krishna. There's no two individuals in existence that have exactly the same relationship with Krishna. There's no two at all. They might have something similar, but there's no two individuals that have exactly the same. So therefore, of all the different souls that have attained Krishna, it's all with slightly different appreciations of their journey. It's not all the same. We have to understand this I mean, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to give the general outline, but our individual practice and sadhana ourselves is what we personally have to realize internally ourselves. Understand? It's a unique place. That's why it can't be done in a group. That's why it can't be done like in an institution, for example. It's a very individual practice ultimately. The words Tatagatim Gata mean that many people have attained the Supreme. It is important to have a clear understanding of this sentence. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is so amazing. I mean, he's just astonishes me every day. It is important to have a clear understanding of this sentence. A single ray of sunlight, kiran, and the sun itself are one and the same substance, vastu. A single ray of sunlight, and there are unlimited billions of rays of sunlight, like there are unlimited billions of jivas, coming from the single vastu of Chit Shakti ultimately. Similarly, Brahm and Krishna are also one and the same substance. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to say this 3 times in the next 2 pages, so it's not a lightweight point, that Krishna and his effulgence are the same. Essentially, the nature of Krishna and his effulgence is the same. It's saying here. Similarly, Brahm and Krishna are also one and the same substance. How can it not be? The sun and the sunlight are one and the same substance. There's a distinction when we analyze them, when we open them out, like fire and light, or fire and heat rather. We can open them out and show the distinction that heat is always dependent on the fire. Nevertheless, heat is always there with the fire. It can't be separated from it. So the Brahmajyoti can't be separated from Krishna also. Similarly, Brahm and Krishna are also one and the same substance. Brahm is simply Krishna's bodily effulgence. Just like the sun and the sunshine are one, essentially. But we define them separately to explain different points about it. And we define the Brahmajyoti as being separate because there's different qualities within the Brahmajyoti. We really have to focus to understand this. This chapter is 21. I told you at the very beginning, it's a pivotal chapter. It carries over into the rest of the book by reading the previous 20 chapters. This has built an adhikar with the enemies. When he's jnanis are like those who only want moksha, one like Uddhav, like Bhishmadev, or jnani bhaktas. They understood the greatness of Krishna's Aishwarya, that gyan, that knowledge of Krishna's Aishwarya, but they were bhaktas simultaneously. They were dedicated to serving Krishna. Bhishmadev was dedicated. And they all attain Uddhava is Dwarka, but the others attain Vaikuntha region, depending, you see, on their connection with Krishna.
Prahlad Maharaj also?
Oh, sorry, yes, Prahlad Maharaj, Jnani Bhakta. Normally I don't sit with the Bodhisattvas. It's so heavy you're here, Maharaj. Stay here. Just stay here for the rest of this chapter, because it gets quite intricate.
We go till 6:30?
6.
Okay.
So Prahlad Maharaj is a Jnani Bhakta. He understood the... My Gurudev said so many times, Nrsingadev could have come as a mosquito. Prahlad would have worshipped him exactly the same way, because he understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he didn't rush with a glass of water or a fan after Nrsingadev had done so much hard labor killing all the demons. So that mood of intimacy was not there. There was a mood of awe and reverence. You understand clearly? Prahlad Maharaj, Jnani Bhakta. The next stage up is Ambarish Maharaj, who's a Shuddha Bhakta, because he had a different connection in Vrindavan in his service to Krishna. And then Hanuman, and then the 5 Pandavas, and then Uddhav. This is the progression. That's incidental. The Jnani Bhaktas merge into the Brahm existence, and so do Krishna's enemies when he has personally killed them. Some of them attain Sarupya Abbas, a form like Krishna, a semblance of a form like Krishna, not exactly like Krishna. It doesn't say Sarupya Mukti. Like, what are the 4 liberations in Vaikuntha? Sarupya, Samipya, Sharsti, and Salokya. These 4 liberations are in Vaikuntha. They're actually in Vaikuntha, but we're talking about the effulgence, the Brahman effulgence here now. This is a little complex.
When Lord Brahma saw that the Atma of Aghasura merged into Krishna's feet,
Yes.
he was so surprised.
Yes,
So then
yes,
of course it was Krishna's arrangement.
yes, for him to see
he
that.
tested Krishna.
Yes. Maharaj is commenting about when Aghasura left his body and his spirit soul was sitting, waiting for Krishna to emerge from the body of Aghasura, and then it merged into the foot of Krishna. So it merged into his bodily effulgence. He was a demon, Aghasura, but he still got a great elevated destination because actually Krishna had come into his mouth. So for just like Putana, because she had Krishna had taken her breast, she got the benediction of being a maidservant in Goloka, on the outskirts. These are different things. I'm not going into all these details because I really want to get through this a bit more. So, this is important paragraph. A semblance of Sarupya, or having a form similar to Bhagavan's. That's what Sarupya Bhas means. That's what we've just described. I'll just read that again. We have to stay on this to understand it. Some of them obtain Swarupya Abhas, which is a semblance of Swarupya, or having a form similar to Bhagavan's. Okay? And remain immersed in the bliss of Brahm. What's the bliss of Brahm? Shantaras. No sambandha. There is no sambandha in the Brahma Jyoti realization or in the Brahma Jyoti itself. There's no direct relationship to Krishna. It's all neutral. Shantaras, neutrality. Neutrality means there's not understanding of the distinction of me and Krishna. So there's no seva in the Brahma Jyoti. There's no sambandha with Krishna. It's impersonal. It's an impersonal, liberated condition. But this isn't where Prahlad Maharaj or Bhishma Dev or these personalities go. They go into Vaikuntha, still in Shantaras, but they have a relationship because they have sambandha of a lower nature. Remain immersed in the bliss of Brahm. So that bliss of Brahm is Shantaras. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na sochati na kanchati. No lamentation, no hankering, no desire. Neutral. According to the Brahmanda Purana, they stay in Siddhaloka, the liberated world beyond the material world. So there are 2 Siddhalokas. There is a Siddhaloka in this realm, and there is a Siddhaloka across the Viraja River. We are talking about that Siddhaloka across the Viraja River. Many impersonal yogis, or those yogis who have realized Paramatma, can enter that Siddhaloka region. It's like just a slight upgrade from the Brahma Jyoti. But there is form. In Paramatma, they realize that there's, in the Brahma realization, they don't have any awareness of Krishna's form. But in Paramatma realization, they have a realization of Paramatma feature within every single entity. But that is still an impersonal realization because there's no direct loving reciprocation with Supersoul. But still, the form is there, Paramatma is there, and that is in Siddhaloka. If you have any question, Maharaj, you say it straight away, because you've heard the same things that I have so many years.
I'm a bit confused about Uddhava, because he's considered a Jnani Bhakta, isn't he?
Yes.
And he has such a intimate relationship with Krishna.
But it was on a platform when Uddhav, she's asking about Uddhav and his relationship with Krishna. And this is all described beautifully in the 46th chapter of the 10th canto. You can write that down as a context. The 46th chapter, when Uddhav comes into Braj before the Brahmara Gita, when he goes and visits the gopis. And he's having a conversation with Nanda Baba, not Yashoda, she can't even speak, she's just dumb. But Nanda Baba has some sensibilities left after Krishna has gone for so long. And Nanda Baba is sharing with Uddhav all kinds of appreciations towards Krishna. And what does Uddhav say at the end? Uddhav says, but don't you know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? He's not your son. He's everyone's son. How is Nanda Baba supposed to cope with that? You understand? And also, when Uddhav goes into Braj, Krishna gives him a spurti of what Braj looks like when he's there. And it's described at the beginning of this 46th chapter. The bulls are in the field rutting, the gopis are chanting, singing, the Brahmins are performing their mantras, etc. Everyone is completely filled with joy and bliss. And so Uddhav is seeing this spurti of when Krishna's present, alive, in Braj. He's just left him in Mathura and he's come. And then Krishna steps out of a doorway. And what does Uddhav do? He immediately offers Dandavat Pranam. So everything changes. You don't offer the Dandavat Pranams in Braj. That's not there.
Because another qualification, jnani are those who are attracted by impersonal.
No, there's two types of jnani. That's what I said.
Yes. And yogis are those who go for moksha, while bhakti are those who want to serve Krishna.
Yes, but there is a differentiation between jnanis, as we've explained.
But we mostly use jnani as impersonalist.
Yes, all jnanis are impersonalists. But jnani bhakta, the word bhakta, if the word bhakta is there, it's completely different. And the yogi's the same. If the yogis manifest to the stage of bhakti, then it changes. Do you understand now?
Yes, so what's his destination then?
Well, best he'll be a bush in Vrindavan.
So he bushed a bit like Santaras.
Shantaras, yes.
It's the highest.
Yes, it's.
So
And
it
what
would
was
be
Lord
a
what was Lord
Brahman.
Lord Brahma? What did he want as the destination? He wanted to be the rock that you wipe your feet on before you go into the houses. He wanted that to be a rock. Uddhav wanted to be a bush, and Lord Brahma wanted to be a stone. So that doesn't indicate a depth of sambandha. Even though in this realm, when Uddhav, Krishna says, you are my best devotee, and he spends so much time, and Uddhav is such a, Uddhav, the name Uddhav means festival of joy. Uddhav is such a beautiful, incredible character, but he's still a jnani bhakta, because it's demonstrating that this aura and reverential place of consciousness is not something negative. Otherwise, why would Krishna manifest it in the world? It's a wonderful thing. But we know through Mahaprabhu's mercy only that there is something beyond there. There is something higher than this. And that's what I said at the very beginning of the class, remember? Who understood that even amongst Mahaprabhu's associates, when he was singing that verse at Rath Yatra, who understood what he was talking about? Only Swarup Damodar, who is Lalita, and Rupa Goswami. Only these two understood. No one else understood. So it indicates this path of Rag Marg is exceptionally rare. I think we heard it for so long, we tend to think it's very familiar, that everyone knows about Rag Marg, but they don't. Even those who are talking about it, thinking about it, hearing about it, they don't know about it also. Even Srimati Radharani, she says those who think they know about Prem, they don't understand Prem. When you know that you don't know, then perhaps you understand something. Because it's all, to us here, achintya. It's all inconceivable. But we're still hearing these very important precepts to set us clearly on our path. Do you understand a little bit? I could speak for a long time on this topic because I love this topic, because I love Uddhav. And I love the whole conception. But when he was sitting with, he speaks 10 verses in response to Nanda Baba. Or rather, Nanda Baba speaks 17 verses to Uddhav. And in one of those verses, he mentions that he thinks that perhaps Balaram and Krishna were empowered personalities. One verse out of 17. And Uddhav, he picks up on that one verse. Oh yes, Balaram and Krishna, they must have been like the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But that wasn't Nanda Baba's intention to give that impression. It was just one detail in a whole line. Read it carefully, 46th chapter. And my Gurudev spoke about it so many times because it's such a deep principle to try and understand. It's fascinating. It's really excellent. It is. Okay. Her name is Rupa Manjari, by the way. So she has a beautiful name.
Rupa Manjari Dasi.
Mutaran Muta. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Rupa Manjari Dasi. Okay. So now this comes to another powerful point. Two kinds of jivas reside in Siddhaloka. Those who have attained perfection through the cultivation of knowledge. Knowledge. Jnani Bhaktas. He calls it Gyan Siddha. These are Jnani Bhaktas. And asuras who have been killed by Sri Bhagavan. Amongst these Jnani Siddhas, some who are extremely fortunate become the ashray of Rag, the abode of attachment for Krishna, and they worship his lotus feet and thus obtain the ultimate aim of Krishna Prem. So there are many, many types of Krishna Prem. And as I said twice already today, there are many. Every single individual has an individual rasa with Krishna. So some of these Siddha Jnanis who come into the realm of Siddha Loka, if they're specifically blessed by association, it's like even in the Brahman, for the Jnani Bhaktas, not the Jnani Bhaktas rather, sorry, the Jnanis who want to merge into the oneness of Krishna, if they receive the association of the foot dust of Narada Rishi or Angira Rishi or someone like that, coming through those celestial airways, they again, their desire for sambandha can awaken. So similarly in this Siddha Loka through association, because it has to be always, always, always association. It can't, it's exactly like the piece of wood. Always think of it like that. A piece of wood has fire dormantly within it, but the wood can never ignite without another piece of fire touching it, can it? You ever heard of wood just taking off and exploding itself? Perhaps we may say bamboo in the heat, but that's rubbing together with another piece of bamboo. But if you just put a piece of wood anywhere, it's not going to ignite fire. The fire is within all wood because it's open to the sun's rays. So that quality of fire is there, but it can never ignite. So similarly, all of these stages can only be attained by association. So this association of these Jnani Siddhas, some who are extremely fortunate, that means they will get some type of association in that realm of Siddha Loka. Become the ashraya of Rag, the abode of attachment for Krishna, and they worship his lotus feet and thus obtain the ultimate aim of Krishna Prem. In this way they gain entry into the group of Krishna's dear associates.
Does that mean here, Maharaj, this Siddha Loka is referring to the Brahmajyoti? Because it kind of seems like it.
Yes, we've spoken twice, and we're going to come to again repeat it, that the Brahmajyoti, but the Brahmajyoti has gradations within it also, because it's saying emphatically that the Brahmajyoti is a part of Krishna's body. This is what it's already said. The sun's rays and the sun, the Vastu, are one. So this Siddha Loka is within, as we said at the very beginning, there is a Siddha Loka within the material realm. But this Siddha Loka we're talking about is across the Viraja river, where these Jnani Siddhas manifest. So there's a distinction within the realm of the Brahmajyoti. This is the best that I can understand that today. When I've thought about it more, I may give you a better answer. All of these sentences, every sentence needs lengthy contemplation, isn't it? It needs serious focus. When you're chanting nicely, when you just have many hours of focused attention, then perhaps some mercy may descend to understand these points more clearly. Very often, Bhaktivinoda Thakur opens it out further in the pages, so let me read more, and I think it'll become clearer.
Maharaj, I have to be going.
Okay.
Thank you so much. That's
Really miss your company, Maharaj. Thank you so much for coming.
You know how to use these?
Yes, I'll figure it. Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you. Thank you. Sajan Maharaj ki jai.
Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Pujyapat Bhaktivedanta Tridananda Maharaj ki jai.
These are very subtle points, that, because this is the stage of Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti. Yes, they attain entry into the group of Krishna's dear associates. As the sun rays and the sun are considered one substance, similarly, there is no difference between Krishna's bodily effulgence, known as Brahm, and Krishna himself. This is the third time it's been said. The words Tad-gatim mean attaining Tat, Krishna, Krishna Gati. The Gyanis and the Asuras achieve Sayuja Mukti. Gyanis. This is not Gyani Bhakta. This is Gyanis. This is like moksha. And both attain Brahm, which is the rays of Krishna's effulgence, Krishna Karan. The Shuddha Bhaktas develop Prem and attain service to Krishna, who is the root of all existence. Now, this is the point that Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually wants to make. We got quite distracted by the novelty of trying to appreciate the nature of the Brahmajyoti and Gyanis and Gyani Bhaktas, but this is the point that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making here. Now, by removing Bhaya, that was the stage of Kamsa, Dvesh, that was like Shishupal, Sneha, which is like Mother Yashoda, which is a quality not to be attained, it's to be experienced, right? Sneha, and Bhakti. And this is Vaidhi Bhakti. That's what he's described. Bhakti is the Vaidhi Bhakti of Narada and the sages, etc. Bhakti. From the above-mentioned list of 6 characteristics, we are left with Kam and Sambandha. Therefore, Kam and Sambandha are the only bhavs that are applicable in Rag Marg. Kam and Sambandha. Thus, there are 2 types of Ragamaya Bhakti, Kam Rupa and Sambandha Rupa. So I'm going to stop there. But personally, I find that understanding phenomenal, to understand these points. We need to meditate them on for a long time. We need to have familiarity with Shastra. We need to have good support from Srimad Bhagavatam, from the 10th canto, like I was describing about Uddhav. Yeah, Prabhu. Yes.
Is it small?
Yes, yes. We've talked about it many times, yes. Yes.
Because it's not big.
Yes. Bhakti, he's mentioning Bhakti Tattva Vivek. Bhakti Tattva Vivek describes the path of Shuddha Bhakti. It's not bringing us into... Yes. Uttam Bhakti. What is Uttam Bhakti?
Before he explained the Gyani.
Yes. What are Gyanis and what is Gyani Bhakta? So these are very powerful truths, and tomorrow we'll touch on them again to some degree, and then we'll continue our journey through this chapter, which is extraordinary. Many times, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he gives the intense details at the beginning of the chapter. This is what he's done in a few chapters, and then we get towards the end of the chapter, and he just floats it out so clearly. So we have to be patient and follow through to the end of the chapter, and then it'll be very clear. But one thing that we do have to really deeply appreciate is the rarity of this Ragmayi Bhakti. It is so rare. But for us, in the shadow or the shade of Mahaprabhu's feet, it's becoming less rare, because Mahaprabhu has come specifically to give this. This is why he's come. So we have a chance. All we need, my Gurudev used to say regularly, is to develop this greed, and perhaps not this lifetime or even the next lifetime, but in some future birth. If this greed has been ignited, then we will be successful in uniting in the kingdom of Braj in service to Krishna. And one more point, when it's saying service to Krishna, even though we may be desiring service to Sri Radhika, but who does Sri Radhika look at all the time? She's looking at Krishna. And my Gurudev, I just wanted to explain this one point today in his Vilap Kusumanjali, very beautiful point, that Raghunath Das Goswami, his real inner form as Tulsi Manjari, she is also Krishna Mayi. That means looking to Krishna. Why? And he's saying here, at first she is Radha Mayi. At first she's just looking towards Radha. And all Sri Radhika's moods comes in her. All of Radhika's moods comes in Tulsi Manjari. So the moods of Radhika come in the mood of Raghunath Das. And what are the moods of Radhika? Krishna. Beautiful, huh? Just wanted to finish on that point. Shil Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai, Jaiva Dharma ki jai, Ragamoy Bhakti ki jai, Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Okay, so we come to our subject matter now of Ragamoy Sadhan Bhakti. This is Sadhan Bhakti. This is the process to attain Rag Marg. Rag Marg is going to be described in the last 14 chapters, the actual path of Rag Anuga, or the Rag Atmika Gun, the Rag Atmika devotees. But now we're discussing the sadhan to attain that Rag Anuga Bhakti. So now Brajanath, yesterday we discussed some incredible points yesterday about the what Vaidhi Bhakti being so, what was it? Yes, how one can attain Raganuga Bhakti. What is the quality of Raganuga Bhakti? Is what? Lobha, greed. This is the quality. Whereas the qualities of Vaidhi Bhakti are actually fear, intelligence, carefully following the tenets and precepts of Shastra. This is the Vaidhi Marg, and it was described as being essentially weak because it doesn't have the heart ingredient. When the heart is anxiously endeavoring to please the Lord, rather than the brain is endeavoring to follow for various reasons, that brain or that intelligence with our intelligence, that is Vaidhi, and that is nothing like the same potency as Rag. Rag is that absolute attraction, that desperation to please Krishna. So we began this topic yesterday, and now we're going to get more involved in it today. So at the bottom of page 492, Brajanath is asking a question. We've discussed two types of Ragamoy Sadhan Bhakti, and that was Kama Rupa and Sambandha Rupa. So these two types of Bhakti have been just to consider, because the antithesis of that, the opposite of that, is the material consideration always. What am I going to get out of it? In any material relationship we see today, in the marriage material, a material marriage, it's practically always based on what one person is getting from the other. That is the nature of that relationship. And when one person in the marriage stops thinking that they're getting something from the relationship, then they very easily divorce. That's the nature of Kali Yuga, rather than actually come into a more respectful, serving kind of mood towards one husband or wife. Understand? So without any desire for one's own happiness, even if there is an effort for one's own happiness, it is in accordance with Krishna's happiness. So even if we want to do something that's favorable for my situation, its ultimate focus is to bring happiness to Krishna. Its ultimate intention is to bring happiness to Krishna. Try to understand. This is the bottom line, so to speak. This unprecedented love is only found in the female residents of Braj. The Gopis' prem is endowed with a particular wonderful sweetness, madhurya, and it gives rise to many playful sports and pastimes. That is why learned scholars refer to its use as calm, lust, although in reality the Gopis apricot, transcendental, and completely bereft of even the slightest trace of fault. Krishna says, na pariyeham niravadya. This word niravadya, when he comes back to the gopis after they've sung their beautiful, lamentable Gopi Geet, he comes back and he says, this na pariyeham niravadya samyujam, that your love is unprecedented, is absolutely without fault, is absolutely pure. Krishna is telling the gopis this, that their love is pure, even though the remarkable aspect of parakya is there. So the conditioned sadhaks have to understand the nature of this parakya. The gopis have left their husbands, they've left everything for Krishna's pleasure. They've given up completely their material situation, their shame, their chastity, their shyness, everything they've given up that is sacred to a young girl. And they've come to Krishna, and Krishna congratulates them. He says, yes, this is the purest type of love that you are demonstrating. So this point of attraction, we are following in the footsteps of the gopis. Desperately, we want to actually attain that same selflessness, that same selfless nature that the gopis have, and completely bereft of even the slightest trace of fault. The calm of the conditioned souls is full of fault and contemptible, whereas the love of the gopis is so transcendently pure and attractive that even such dear bhaktas as Uddhav also desire to attain it. Yes, Uddhav is the most brilliant personality, that disciple of Brihaspati. Remarkable qualities, etc. Brahmachari, I think, not married. And he wants to attain the same standard of affection that the gopis have, but he can't, because he has this Aishwarya Bhav mood towards Krishna of awe and reverence that doesn't allow him the depth of intimacy that the gopis have with Krishna, because the gopis have no Aishwarya whatsoever. Krishna is just a gopa in their village, and they have fallen in love with this remarkable boy. They're not thinking that he's God. Krishna is not showing his godlike qualities to them. They believe sometimes that he's God, but 99% of the time they don't think he's God at all. And that's the platform that Krishna is relating with them. So Uddhav, he can't, just like Lakshmi Devi can't do that also. Also desire to attain. Nothing can compare with the gopis' calm. It can only be compared with itself. Calm Rupa Ragatmika Bhakti is found only in Braj and nowhere else. Kupja's calm in Mathura is not really calm, but merely rati. The calm that I am describing has no relation with that of Kupja. There's three types of rati that we should know and understand. The rati of Kupja is amongst these three principal types of rati. That's called Sadarani, Sadarani rati. That doesn't control Krishna. That can't control Krishna, Sadarani. And then there's the rati of the Mahishis, the queens of Dwarka. Their rati is called Samanjasaha. And that also doesn't control Krishna. It doesn't have that capacity to control Krishna. When Krishna goes to Dwarka, he doesn't even need to take his flute with him or his peacock feather. He can control them just with his words and his smile. But in Braj, he needs his flute to control the gopis' man sometimes. The flute is needed, necessary. But the gopis in Braj, their rati is called Samartha rati. This Samartha rati has the quality to control Krishna by their love. It controls Krishna. From Krishna's very first advent, even as a child, a small child, he was controlled by the gopis telling him to dance, telling Krishna and Balaram, oh, who is the stronger out of these two? And then they would wrestle with each other, and the gopis would cheer both camps, both sides, Krishna and Balaram. And just the whole mood of Krishna's submissiveness to the Brijbasis' love. He's controlled by their love. This is a remarkable consideration when we think about it, or meditation. to appreciate how Krishna, the supreme controller of all, is controlled by the love of the Brijbasis. So how exceptionally great are the Brijbasis, how special. What to speak of the gopis themselves? Their love completely controls Krishna, absolutely controls him. Krishna comes back, this verse I just quoted, Napariyaham niravadya samyujam, swasadu krityam vibhurisyapicha, yamabhajam durajat, gehas, shrinkala, sangvishtaya tadvat partiyatu sadhana. That Krishna is saying, I cannot repay my affection for you in a whole day of Lord Brahma. That's billions and billions of years. He can't repay their affection for him. It's endeared him. So these contemplations, the sadhak is always considering. This erodes his material, selfish nature. Being a conditioned soul, we only have that selfishness prominently. So this is our enemy, so to speak. We're looking to purify that. So Kupcha, she has some bodily attraction to Krishna. And that's a much lower degree, but Rupa Goswami includes her rati as an example, because she only thinks of Krishna. She doesn't think of any other man except Krishna. So because of that exclusive focus, then her rati has been included, that Sadharani rati. After this class, I'm going to post a very interesting document or an article by Hridai Bon Maharaj. He wrote in the introduction to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu a very beautiful explanation of all the different terminologies within the rasa or ragamoy path, and from Shraddha to Prem, and then from Prem to Mahabhav, to Madanakya Mahabhav, to Mohanakya Mahabhav. All the different terminologies are explained beautifully. It's a 14-page document, and it's really... My Gurudev wanted to translate this into Hindi. He was so impressed with it. Hridai Bon Maharaj, a great disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, very erudite, brilliant personality. And he's taken this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and he's taken all the vocabulary out of it. And only in 14 short pages, he's included every single terminology, like these 3 ratis I'm talking about. He describes them very clearly. So it's a tremendous resource for our study into Raganuga-bhakti, and I'll post that afterwards. So Brajanath says, what is Sambandha Rupa Bhakti? So we just discussed what is Kama Rupa Bhakti, these 3 types of karma. In Kupcha, the queens and the gopis, and of those 3, the gopis are way supreme. So now Sambandha Rupa Bhakti. Babaji, Sambandha Rupa Bhakti is devotion to Krishna in which one assumes an abhiman, a conception, an identity, such as I am Krishna's father or I am Krishna's mother. In Braj, the devotion of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda are examples of Sambandha Rupa Bhakti. One can attain one's inherent swarup in unalloyed prem by developing the bhavs of either Kamrupa or Sambandha Rupa. Therefore, both these bhavs are the shelter of Nitya Siddha Bhaktas, so Kamarupa or Sambandha Rupa. These have only been mentioned in the analysis of Raganuga-bhakti. Now you can see that there are 2 types of Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti, Kamanuga and Sambandhanuga, because that was the question. How many types of Raganuga-bhakti are there? So there's 2, and we should understand the distinction between these 2. It's not so difficult to understand.
Is that just meaning that the gopis are in the Kama Rupa?
Yes.
And everyone else in Braj is in the
Yes,
Sambandha?
yes, yes. That calm in the material world is called lust, but that's not,
Transcendental.
it's transcendental lust. So yeah, any of those female Shringara relationships, that is all Karmanuga. And any of the other relationships, like in Vatsalya Prem or in Sakya Ras or even in Dasya Ras, are in the nature of Sambandha Rupa, Sambandha Rupa Bhakti. Brajanath, please explain the nature of Kamanuga in Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti. So now this is becoming very much deeper. Interesting. So now Babaji, Kamanuga is the desire to follow Kama Rupa Bhakti. Anuga. What does anuga mean? It means to follow. So Kam Anuga. I want to follow those who are in that gun, in that group, who are performing that Kam Bhakti. So the desire to follow the Kama Rupa Bhakti, of which there are two types, Sambhog Ichamayi and Tat Tat Bhav Ichamayi. These are very, very important terms. We have to know these terms. There's a huge distinction between these terms, massive distinction. The path that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving to the conditioned jiva at this time is called Tat Tat Bhav Ichamayi, which is distinct from Sambhog Ichamayi. So we'll read and discuss, and hopefully it'll be self-explanatory for everyone to understand very clearly. Brajana, what is Sambhog Ichamayi? Sambhog means relationship, Sambhog, right? We understand that Sambhog is relationship, enjoying relationship. So that Gopi must be feeling great pleasure for Krishna to want to come and enjoy with her. But pleasure that the gopis are enjoying is for the satisfaction of Krishna. And Krishna's pleasure is to please and have satisfaction in the gopis. It's a competition between the two, because it's selfless. So what is Sambhog Ichamayi? Babaji, Sambhog Ichamayi means the desire to engage in playful sportive pastimes, Keli, with Krishna. Krishna's transcendental sportive pastimes with the gopis are called Sambhog. Now all of these personalities, these gopis, they're directly Radhika's Kaya Vyuha. They're directly manifesting from her body with the Abhiman to give Krishna direct pleasure with their own bodies, with themselves completely. That's the distinction. Many times when perhaps in the early days we might have read the Krishna book and it's describing the Ras Leela, and we might have thought, oh yes, I want to be a gopi. And we might have begun to think, yes, how can I be a gopi? We might have even imagined we were a gopi. But actually being a gopi is something extraordinarily, it's beyond the capacity of the conditioned souls at this point. We can perhaps become sadhana siddha at some future date, but all the gopis in the Ras Leela, they're all manifested from Sri Radhika with the identity, the abhiman, to have the ability to enjoy with Krishna. This is not a small quality, to have that ability to please Krishna directly. Whereas the Manjaris, they have the quality to serve Radhika, not to serve Krishna directly. It's a big distinction. There's 5 types of gopis. There's the Sakis, then there's the Nitya Sakis and the Pran Sakis, and then there's the Priya Sakis and the Priya Nam Sakis. These are the 5 types of Sakis that are mentioned. We can post a file with these on. And the Sakis, the Priya Sakis and the Pran Sakis, they're all in the mood of Sambhog Ichamayi. Ichamayi means desire. Icha. Icha is desire. So Sambhog, the desire to enjoy with Krishna. This is the Priya Sakis, the Priya Nam Sakis, and the Sakis themselves. And then the second type, the Nitya Sakis and the Pran Sakis, they have the mood of Tat Tat Bhav Ichamayi. They have the mood to become one completely in service to Sri Radhika exclusively. And their Bhav is called Bhav Olas. That means their Sthai Bhav is only made of service to Sri Radhika. That is all they want. They only want service to Radhika. But service to Radhika will include great attraction to Krishna, because Radhika loves Krishna at the same time, but they have never any desire, not even a smell of a desire, to enjoy separately from Krishna. That's not their intention whatsoever. They are completely satisfied exclusively with service to Sri Radhika. So we have to understand this deeply. We'll discuss more and more of this point, but this is like the platform. So Sambhoga Ichamayi means the desire to engage in playful sports with Krishna. Krishna's transcendental sportive pastimes with the gopis are called Sambhog. Brajnath, what is Tat Tat Bhav Ichamai? Babaji, Tat Tat Bhav Ichamai is the desire to experience the sweet bhavs that the gopis of Braj have towards Krishna. So that's only the manjaris. That's only the manjaris. Very simple, very straightforward. Brajnath, how do these two kinds of Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti arise? So how do they manifest? Babaji, when a bhakta sees Sri Krishna's beautiful deity form and hears Sri Krishna's Madhurya Lila Katha, sweet pastimes, an intense hankering arises in his heart to experience those bhavs, and he then engages himself in the sadhana of Kama Anuga and Sambandhanuga Raganuga Bhakti. So when one's attraction to Krishna and to please Krishna becomes very intense and arises with the ignition, we can say, from someone who already has that bhav. There are those who are already in the spiritual world. So that is a different consideration altogether. But from this conditioned place, we have to be in touch with those who are already connected in every instance. He then engages himself in the sadhana of Kamanuga and Sambandhanuga Raganuga Bhakti. Brajnath, Sri Krishna is male, Purush, and the gopis are all female, Prakriti. As far as I understand, only females can have the adhikar for Kama Anuga Raganuga Bhakti. So how can a male obtain this bhav? Good question. Babaji, jivas in this world are the abodes of 5 different types of relationships: Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya, according to their own inherent svabhav. That means their own nature. Everyone has a principal bhav, different type of relationship in these 5 relationships. Intrinsically, it's their sthai bhav, it's fixed already. They have this relationship. Of these 5, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya are found in the residence of Braj. Shantaras is not there. Shantaras is more like a neutral ras, which is prominent in Vaikuntha, and of course in the Brahmajyoti of the yogis, etc. That's Shantaras. Shantaras is a quality of the Jnani Bhaktas. And Uddhav is a Jnani Bhakta, for example. Bhishma, Jnani Bhakta, we spoke about this yesterday. Huh? What?
Trees, birds.
Yes, trees and birds. But still, all the trees and birds, they have more than Shantaras in Braj. My Gurudev says there's practically no Shantaras in Braj. Not even the cows are in. They all have the desire to serve Krishna fully. Shantaras is a neutral place.
They have intelligence.
Yes, they're conscious. Everything in Braj is conscious, has consciousness. Brajanath, Sri Krishna is male Purusha and the gopis are all female Prakriti. Oh yes, we had that. So that's the question. So yes, Dasya, Sakya, and Vatsalya with fatherly instincts are male bhavs, and those who are so inclined serve Krishna in male spiritual forms. And those who are so inclined serve Krishna. Oh, I just read that, right? Hang on a second, I'm getting lost here. Dasya, Sakya, and Vatsalya with fatherly instincts are male bhavs, and those who are so inclined serve Krishna in male spiritual forms. The 2 rasas in which the female bhav is intrinsic are Vatsalya with motherly instincts and Shringara ras, or Madhurya ras, the mellow of amorous love. And those who are of this nature engage in Krishna's service as females. These 2 kinds of swabhav means nature, internal, intrinsic nature, exist both in Sri Krishna's eternal associates and the sadhaks who are in their anugatya, following. So that's a very interesting sentence. Both within the siddhas and the sadhaks, this propensity for that swabhav, that desire to be like a female, are within the sadhan bhaktas as well as the siddhas. The siddhas are already in that, But the sadhan bhaktas who desire that swabhav is there in a female mood within them. And I was going to have some examples here. Brajanath, how do those who have a male form practice Raganuga-sadhana with the bhav of the Braj Gopis? Babaji, those who have developed ruchi, taste, for Sringara Ras, according to their adhikar, may be male outwardly, but their spiritual body, Siddha Sarir, has a female form, just like Raghunath Das Goswami. Internally, he's Raghunath Das. Externally, he's Raghunath Das, but internally, he's Tulsi Manjari or Rati Manjari. In that Siddha Sarir, they engage in Krishna's service, following in the footsteps of a particular gopi according to their ruchi and inherent swabhav. Padma Purana describes males who possessed this kind of bhav. When the sages of Dandakaranya saw Sri Ramanuja's unparalleled beauty, they performed bhajan with the desire to get him as their husband. Later, they attained gopi forms in Gokul Lila and engaged in Sri Hari's service by Kam Rupa Ragmoy Bhakti. So we know this pastime of the sages of Dandakaranya. They saw the immensely attractive form of Lord Ram, and they desired to have female moods to relish that form. They had a mood of conjugal ras arose in them to have that type of relationship with that extraordinarily beautiful Ram. That was what arose in them, but naturally. So in their future births, they accomplished that. They became the gopis in Gokul Lila. Many types of different types of gopis coming from different places, not all the same. Brajanath, we have heard that the women of Gokul are Nitya Siddhas, who appear in Braj in order to give nourishment to Krishna's pastimes. If this is true, how is it consistent with the description of the Padma Purana? So in other words, these women of Gokul are Nitya Siddhas. So how could it have been that they were previously sages of Dandakaranya? That's what the question is. Because the Padma Purana is described, the sages of Dandakaranya. That's his question. Understand? Babaji, those who are Nitya Siddha Gopis easily participated in the rasa dance with Sri Krishna. Others had taken birth as gopis after attaining siddhi through Kamarupa Sadhan-bhakti. This is the sages of Dandakaranya. When there's Sadhan-bhakti, they attained that position. According to the shloka, Ta Varyamanaha Pratibi Pitribir Bratra Bandhubi, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:29-8, they attain their aprakrat swarup by rendering Manasi Seva to Krishna. These were mainly the Mahishis of Dandakaranya. So these personalities of Dandakaranya, they attained Krishna through their Ragmoy Sadhan Bhakti. Brajanath, will you please explain who are the Nitya Siddha Gopis and who are the Sadhana Siddha Gopis? Okay, this is a big question. We have to be sharp, clear on this. Babaji, Srimati Radharani is Sri Krishna's Swarup Shakti, and the 8 principal Sakis are her first Kaya Vyuha, bodily expansions. Lalita, Vishaka, Champakalata, Chitra, Tunga, Vidya, Sudevi, Rangadevi, Induleka, Astasakis. These are the 8 Astasakis. And the other Sakis follow behind as her further Kaya Vyuha. Actually, it's described that from each Saki, Srimati Radhika manifests 8 Sakis. And then from those 8 Sakis manifest a further 8 Sakis. Each will manifest, so 8 times 8. And then those Sakis manifest further Sakis. So their core initiator, or the origin, is Sri Radhika. But they're multiplying out from Sri Radhika. That's how it manifests. The other Sakis follow behind her further. The other Sakis follow behind as her further Kaya Vyuha. All these Sakis are Nitya Siddha. They are Swarup Shakti Tattva. Yes, these gopis that are dancing in the Rasa Leela are Swarup Shakti Tattva, direct expansions from Sri Radhika. Direct. They are not Jiva Tattva. Not Jiva Tattva. The general Sakis of Braj, who attained perfection by performing sadhan, follow Srimati Radharani's eternal associates, Parikar, and they are known as Sadhana Siddha Jivas. Having been imbued with the potency of Hladini Shakti, they attained Salokya, residence in Braj Aprakat Leela, with the Nitya Siddha Sakis of Braj. Jivas who attain perfection by the path of Raganuga sadhana in Sringara Ras are included amongst the sadhan Siddha Sakis. So we have those Nitya Siddha Sakis that come directly from Radhika, and we have the Sadhana Siddha Sakis who are in process of becoming purified. That's the distinction. Not so difficult to appreciate. We are potentially Sadhana Siddha gopis, Sakis, if that is our desire. Although we have to have the Saki from where we're going to get that greed from, which my Gurudev describes are not prominent at this time in Kali Yuga. Those Sakis are not prominently available, whereas the Manjaris are prominently available. All our Guru Varga line are all Manjaris. My Gurudev is saying all of our line, they're all Raganuga Siddha. Nitya Siddhas, yes, they're all coming directly from that spiritual realm. Having been imbued with the potency of Hladini Shakti, they attain, yes, I've read that. Yes. Those who only serve Krishna according to the principles of Vidimarg, with the Riramsa, desire to enjoy with Krishna for their own pleasure, gain entry into the group of Krishna's queens in Dwarka. So those Mahishis in Dwarka, they have some desire for their own pleasure. They want Krishna in Swakya. Actually, all of those queens in Dwarka are all replicas originally of the gopis from Braj. We read in the Lalit Madhav by Rupa Goswami, when Krishna leaves Vrindavan, all those gopis take manifestations in Dwarka. Radhika becomes Satyabhama, Chandravali becomes Rukmini, and all the other gopis come to Dwarka, and they enjoy Swakya relationships with Krishna. But this Swakya is nothing like as pleasing to Krishna as the Parakya relationship in Braj. But still those gopis are tasting that Swakya relationship in Dwarka, and it pleases Krishna to some degree. Those queens, those Mahishis, are described as having up to the stage of Anurag. They don't come to the stage of Mahabhav in their quality of love towards Krishna. Only the gopis I just described before, this Samartha Rati, has that speciality to control Krishna. The queens don't. They can't control. They have 10 sons and 1 daughter. So that means they will give Krishna 1/12 of their love. They have 10 and 1 is 11. There's 1 left over. That's for Krishna. So that's the focus of their affection and attraction.
Can I ask?
Huh?
Can I ask a question? I have a question. It means Jiva became like in Dwaraka.
But those queens in Dwarka, yes,
Queens.
if he has that desire for,
Is it possible for Jiva?
yes, the same as it's possible to become a gopi in Braj. If one desires to be a queen in Dwarka, then one can perform that sadhan bhajan to attain that position.
I heard Jew can be only servant of Queen's Dwarka, and is only servant.
Always their servant. In any situation, their servant.
But in this sentence, opposite meaning.
What are you reading? Let
They
me just
who-
read through.
who-
Let me finish this paragraph.
Okay.
One cannot become a follower of the... I'll just read this again from the beginning. Those who only serve Krishna according to the principles of Vidimag, with the Riramsa desire to enjoy with Krishna for their own pleasure, gain entry into the group of Krishna's queens in Dwarka. One cannot become a follower of the Braja Gopis through the Vidimag alone. Bhaktivinoda Thakur has his focus set on bringing us to the gift of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's not really going to digress far away from that. So he's not going to go into great consideration. How can you become a queen in Dwarka? This is kind of like a little superfluous. We don't need to know that. What we do need to know is how to become a Braja Ramani, how to become a Gopi in Vrindavan. So this is where he's got his focus. One cannot become a follower of the Braja Gopis through the Vidimag alone. One has to come into the kingdom of Madhurya, one must go beyond this rules and regulations. And the example very clearly is Lakshmi. Lakshmi Devi could not become a gopi. She's still meditating in Belvan because she couldn't break this abhiman, this identity of just having one husband. She couldn't embrace parakya. So this Vidimag is going to restrict the practitioner if he wants this pure Braja Prem. The Vidimag is for the achan, the external body of the sadhak. We've already described that. But actually the Vidimag, when we come into the area of intimate service with the Lord, then these angas of bhakti, this Vidimag, is not going to be prominent at all. It's going to be left behind. Whereas in Dwarka, there will be something of that, because this Aishwarya Bhav in Dwarka is prominent. That is the distinction. In Dwarka, this Aishwarya Bhav is there, always. They are serving Krishna. In a mood of Krishna is the prince of Dwarka, like a king of Dwarka. They serve him in that mood, in Aishwarya. However, those who behave externally according to the principles of Vidimag, but who internally practice the sadhana of Ragamag, also obtain Braja Seva. So it's the internal that is the prominent thing, not the external. We've already gone through this. The external is like the achan. Brajanath, how can one fulfill the desire for enjoyment, Raman or Riramsa? Babaji, those who have the mood of Krishna's queens, Mahishibhav, towards him desire to give up the quality of shamelessness, Dristya, just as a housewife, Grinini. They do not want to see beautiful Braja Sundaris. We know the distinction between Swakya and Parakya. Swakya, Swa means own. It means when you're in a marital relationship, the wife is thinking that the husband belongs to her, and the husband is thinking that the wife belongs to him. Swa, this Swakya. But in para means other. So that relationship is not based on any type of ownership at all, or any sentiment like that. Like in the Swakya marital relationship, there's a definite responsibility that goes with it. But in Parakya, Krishna, in a sense, owes nothing to the gopis. And the gopis themselves, they admit, we are unpaid mates, we have nothing. That they have no dharmic sort of like connection. The only connection is their spontaneous attraction. That's why it's so powerful. Please explain this subject more clearly. Mahishi Bhav is the sadhan seva in which one cherishes the spiritual self-conception that Krishna is one's own husband, one's own. This is what I just described. Swa, own husband.
So it's possible for Jiva or not? Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he said he wants this, and he practiced Vaiti Bhakti, he worshipped Radha Krishna. And
We have the example.
I think
We have one
possible.
example. We have this example. What's her name?
And before I heard it's not possible.
No, I'm just trying to think of what's the, you know, in Vrindavan, this one, I can't think of her name. It's just gone from me. One lady from south, she was worshipping Dwarkadish. And I'll think of the name in a minute. I'll remember the name. But there is an example of that. Mirabai, thank you. Mirabai, yes. Mirabai was like a jiva, conditioned jiva, and she worshipped Dwarkadish. This is your question. She's a jiva worshipping Dwarkadish. So she attained the darshan of Dwarka in a mood of rag, in a mood of attraction to Dwarkadish. So that's the jiva's example of that. But we never include her in our Gaudiya lineage because none of the Gaudiyas want this bhav. That is not the focus of the...
It is other sampradaya.
Yes, it's not the sampradaya, so let's not... We have enough complication already just understanding this. Huh? Yes, something. So I don't know all about the Nimbadija Sampradaya, I don't know all about the Ballava Sampradaya, I just know about the Gaudiya Sampradaya. Let's just focus on this and then we'll be okay. This is enough strangers to understand this. To bring it, make it more complex is going to just be extra confusion. Babaji. Mahashi Bhav is the sadhan seva in which one cherishes the spiritual self-conception that Krishna is one's own husband. The relationship that is established with Sri Krishna when one attains this Mahishi Bhav is known as Swakiya, marital love. Those who have Mahishi Bhav in the stage of sadhan do not experience the Parakiya Ras, the paramour mellow of the gopis of Braj, and this is why they cannot follow the gopis in Parakiya Bhav. Therefore, the only way to attain Braja Ras is to practice Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti in the Parakiya Bhav. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is only putting his focus here. He's not going into all different sampradayas, otherwise the book would be 20 times as long. Why should we be making big considerations in that region, just out of curiosity? Brajanath, by your mercy I have understood up to this point. Now please explain the difference between Kam and Prem. If the two are non-different, then can't Prem Rup be used instead of Kam Rupa? The word Kam sounds somewhat harsh. So I'm actually going to stop now. We've reached our point. So we'll stop on this question, and it's a fascinating question. And Babaji is going to open this out on Monday. So on Monday, we'll come back to this topic and question. It's Bhaktivinoda Thakur is laying out the foundation, the platform for us to appreciate at this stage. And by our chanting and meditation and practicing, we will invoke the mercy of Krishna and our Guru Varga to understand. But if you want to understand all separate topics, you'll get distracted into a separate arena and you'll lose the opportunity to, we should be careful about curiosity, just trying to understand all different. Where will it lead us? What will be our eventual, what are we trying to achieve? We're trying to achieve Braja Ras. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says it very clearly at the end here. Therefore, the only way to attain Braja Ras is to practice Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti in the Parakiya Bhav. He's dismissing Swakiya Bhav straight away. We're not going to be opening out Swakiya Bhav. So whether the jiva comes into Dwarka or not is incidental, even though we have the example of Mirabai. But that's the end of the story. Don't go further than that.
I have a friend of mine, he said, I want to be in Dwarka.
So let him go to Dwarka, tell him to go to another Sampradaya.
Very interesting in what happens in
He can go, he can go.
He will be
Let's him see, let's see.
or servant of King.
Let's
For me,
see.
it's like curiosity.
See what his destination is. Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Jaiva Dharma ki jai. Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti ki jai. Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. So now we come to page 497. And we're at the top of this page. Last time we went through what is Parakya and what is Swakya, right? We discussed that already. So that was what we covered. And so many points that we've discovered, we've discussed, not discovered, discovered, yes, but discussed. So many points we've discussed. So we'll have some time, I think, at the end for a general recap of this whole chapter. But it's bringing us through a very sensitive place of Ragamaya sadhan bhakti. It's sadhan. It's not ragatmika. These ragatmika explanations will come at the end. How is the sadhak to appreciate these ragatmika moods? That's all going to be described in the last. But now we're discussing the sadhan, because we discussed Vaidhi sadhan. So this is rag sadhan, how to practice this rag marg path. That's what we've been discussing. So we have to be very sensitive to all the various considerations of the ragatmikas, because we are following in their footsteps. But we are sadhaks following their footsteps. So on the top of 497, Brajanath, by your mercy, I have understood up to this point. That's about Parakya and Swakya, especially Parakya. Because Raganuga Bhakti cannot exist without Parakya. Without the mood of Parakya, then Rag Marg has no meaning, that there's no potency to it. It's Swakya. It's like the Mahishis of Dwarka. But the Ragamaya Bhakti Ras is in Braj, and that contains the quality of Parakya. Brajanath, by your mercy I've understood up to this point. Now please explain the difference between Kam and Prem. If the two are non-different, then can't Prem Roop be used instead of Kam Roop? The word Kam sounds somewhat harsh. So very good question here. We're talking about Prem Moy Bhakti and Kamanuga Bhakti. So why is it called Kamanuga Bhakti? Why not just Prem Anuga Bhakti? This is what's going to be described, understand? Babaji, there is some difference between Kam and Prem. Prem is the same as Sambandha Roop Ragamaya Bhakti. Ragamaya Bhakti. That means that this Prem can manifest in the relationships of following in Vatsalya Bhav, not necessarily Sringara Ras. This is following the Brijbasis, but it may be in Sakya Ras, Dasya Ras, or Vatsalya Ras. This is this Sambandha Roop. So this is called Prem. Prem Anuga, we can say. That would distinguish it. There is no difference between those two. In Sambandha Rupa Bhakti, there is no Kam. In other words, no desire for Sambhog. It is Prem without playful, sporting pastimes, Keli. Whenever we discuss the pastimes of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, it's not, generally often say Madhurya in a general sort of sense, but it's not actually Madhurya, it's Sringara Ras. This Sringara Ras is the conjugal Ras. Madhurya Ras is the Ras generally of all of the residents of Vrindavan, of Mother Yashoda, Nanda Baba, Sridham, all the cows as well. They're all in Madhurya, but Sringara is specific, and that Madhurya, we can say, if you're following what I'm saying, can be synonymous with prem, that general prem. That's what's going to be explained. There's no sportive pastimes with Krishna in Vatsalya. There are sporting pastimes with the sakhas, but not in conjugal. It's all relatively childlike and very exhilarating, but it's not anything the same as the calm of the gopis, that calm anuga. There's a huge distinction. This is what Babaji is explaining. It's powerful, it's wonderful. Prem becomes Kamarupa Bhakti when it is combined with the desire for sambhog. That means union, sambhog. Kam Rupa Bhakti is not present in any other ras. It is found only in the Sringara ras of the Brajadevis. It's not in any other, it's not in Vatsalya, not in Sakya, not anywhere. So this is the distinction that he's giving. Calm in this material world, now we're looking somewhere else, calm in this material world takes the form of sense gratification, and it is quite different from apricot calm, totally different. Calm is for me, for my pleasure, the lusty nature of this material world, which leads to envy, anger, etc., etc., all of these detrimental material qualities. But the calm of the Braj Gopis is utterly selfless. It's niravada. We discussed this verse the other day. What was it? Na pariyeham niravadya. Krishna is congratulating the gopis on their bhav as being impeccable, niravada, like gold. It cannot be faulted. They're absolutely faultless, niravada. So this is the prem, this is the calm of the gopis. It is found only in the Sringara ras of the Brajadevis. Calm in this material world takes the form of sense gratification, and it is quite different from apricot calm. The calm of this material world is only a perverted reflection or transformation of the faultless apricot calm. Everything in this material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. The perversion is that I'm thinking of myself rather than Krishna. That's the perversion. In the spiritual world, there is only one focus, and that's the Lord. To bring him pleasure, either in Kam Anuga or in Sambandha Anuga. These two distinct considerations. Because if someone is in Sakya Ras, like Brajanath is in Sakya Ras, he will be relating to Sambandha Anuga. But if someone like Vijay wants to string garlands for Lalita Saki, then this is Kamanuga. So these two varieties. Because the question was asked previously, where is it? How many types of Ragmoy Bhakti are there? And Babaji is saying there's two. Two types. And these are the two that we're describing. Yes, the calm of the material world is only a perverted reflection or transformation of the faultless apricot calm. Even Kupja's bhav cannot be called direct calm, although it is directed towards Krishna. So she is not, this means actually would have been better to put Kam Anuga here. She's not, she's called a Kam Anuga Bhakta, or Bhaktin, by Rupa Goswami, because he gives the title of her Rati. Her Rati is called Sadharani. If you looked at that beautiful 14-page document I sent the other day by Pujapad Hriday Bon Maharaj, he gives all the definitions of all of these names, these, what do you call them? Terms. So Kubja, she had her focus on Krishna. This is why Rupa Goswami will include it. But Kubja was looking at Krishna for her own pleasure. So it was something of a mix. But still, Rupa Goswami gives her the benefit of the doubt and calls it Sadharani. And that's the first. But it's directly to enjoy herself simultaneously. It's not even like the Mahishis of Dwarka, the queens of Dwarka. Their bhav is samanjasaha, much, much higher, their rati. So Kubja's bhav cannot be called direct calm. It's not direct calm anuga. although it is directed towards Krishna. Many of these comments that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving are not immediately going to be appreciated. These need to be contemplated, meditated for the rest of our lives. And when we're chanting, different things will come up. Oh, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was saying like that. Let me go back. And then again, we will understand it more clearly. And that's the nature of this whole compilation. It's to nourish us whole life. Because many considerations will come. Many times Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's putting almost in sutra form. He's not putting totally in black and white like that. It's actually, we have to dive in there. So, Jadiya Kam, lust, in relation to inert, lifeless matter, is based on sense gratification. And it is only a transformation of misery. It is worthless and contemptible. It's miserable because it just brings us into association with the material world, with matter. It takes us away from Krishna. It keeps us separate from Krishna. We were discussing about what is this separate nature from Krishna. Anything that is separate from Krishna is going to bring misery. So any endeavor separate from Krishna, so this lusty nature for the material pleasure is going to bring us misery. It is worthless and contemptible. In contrast, calm based on prem is full of anand. This calm is based on prem. The principle prem is the complete loving attention, focus towards Krishna. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur is kindly distinguishing between the two types, between the Brijbasis and between the Braj Devis and the rest of the Brijbasis. He's distinguishing the two. In contrast, calm, based on prem, is full of anand, and it is supremely valuable and always joyful. Since prakrita calm, worldly lust, is insignificant and abominable, you should have no hesitation in using the word aprakat calm, transcendental lust. Yes, because we're familiar with this transcendental lust. We've been in this material world for so many lifetimes. Brajanath, now please explain Raganuga-bhakti, that is based on relationship, Sambandha Rupa. Babaji, Sambandha Bhakti has the mood of being related to Krishna, and this relationship may be one of three types: in Dasya, servitude; in Sakya, friendship; or in Vatsalya. I am Krishna's servant, and Krishna is my master. I am Krishna's friend, and I am Krishna's mother or father. All these moods are called relationships. Sambandha Anuga Bhakti is preeminently displayed only in the inhabitants of Braj. So it's only in Braj that we're talking about now. We've come just into we've almost concluded this chapter, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making it very clear this Ragmai Bhakti actually only exists in Braj. It's not in Dwarka. In Dwarka, what is the dynamic of the relationships? Oh, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Or Krishna is Paramatma. Or Krishna is the King. Or Krishna is the Prince. Krishna is my Supreme Lord. How can I get something from Krishna? Because he's so potent and powerful. That's the nature of the worship. But in Braj, Krishna is just an innocent cowherd boy. All are thinking like that. The Brijbasis are thinking we have to feed Krishna. Krishna can't live without us giving him roti and makan and gur. Otherwise he will die. He's too shy to ask himself. We have to give him all the time. So this mood of giving to Krishna is prominent in Braj, where the mood of taking from Krishna in the mood of Aishwarya. Because Aishwarya, putting someone in a very high position, means actually you're taking something. You understand? Completely different.
We ask questions later on.
You can say.
Sorry.
No, just say quickly.
The process is internal.
Yes.
And how is it that the internal process cannot be had outside Braj?
Because Braj itself is an internal meditation. In Braj, I understand your question, and it's a beautiful question. In Braj, that internal relationship is manifesting fully in the external world. In Braj, there are no like sages sitting on top of mountains or yogis performing internal meditation of Krishna. This Paramatma feature is actually outside of them. So they have internalized sufficiently, or they've been, actually they're all Kaya Vyuha in Braj. They're all manifesting from Sri Radhika, or they're manifesting from Baladev Prabhu, directly into Vrindavan with this staiva, except for the sadhana siddhas who come there from their purified practice. So they're all, that is the inside and outside are like one in Braj. There's no separateness. Only that internal introspection, reflection takes outside Braj, not inside. It's a nice question. I'll think about it more. I like it. That's a good question. Where are we? Inhabitants is displayed only in the inhabitants of Braj. Brajanath, how does one cultivate Raganuga-bhakti in the mood of a servant, friend, or parent? So we're focusing on Sambandha, Anuga Bhakti. Babaji, one who has awakened Ruchi for Dasyaras follows Krishna's eternal servants, such as Raktak and Praktak, and serves Krishna by following their particular mood of service, imbued with Madhurya Bhav. Actually, if you want to know more about these different personalities of Braj, there's a beautiful book. You can just reach it behind you. It's in that line of books next to Nityananda on this side. That's Rupa Goswami's Radhaganadesh Deepika, the red book. Yes. Let me hold it up. Yes, that one. Yeah. Just pick it up, give it to me. I'm just going to show you this book. If you have this little book, this describes all of the personalities in Vrindavan. It describes Krishna's servants, it describes Krishna's friends and his, particularly the gopis, mother and father, etc. This is a brilliant little guide that Rupa Goswami again has given us. So this is a divine gift also from Rupa Goswami. One whose ruchi is towards Sakyaras serves Krishna by following the bhav, sentiment, and chesta endeavors of one of Krishna's priya sakhas, such as Subal. One whose ruchi is towards Vatsalya ras engages in Krishna's service by following the bhav and activities of bhaktas such as Nanda and Yashoda, who have a parental relationship with him. Very clear. These three types of relationships: servant, friend, or parental. Brajanath, what does it mean to follow anukarana at the chesta and bhavs? That's a nice question too, of course. Babaji, according to one's eternal inherent nature, siddha bhav, towards Krishna, some specific bhavs and chesta endeavors arise, and vyavahara, activities, are also manifested along with them. Yes, naturally. There will be activities. A sadhak performing Sambandhanuga Bhakti engages himself in Krishna's service by following these bhavs, chesta, and vyavahara, activities. For instance, Nanda Maharaj has the mood of paternal affection towards Krishna, so one should follow all the endeavors that he makes to please Krishna, guided by the mood of paternal affection. But one should never consider that he himself is Nanda, Yashoda, Subal, or Raktak. Very important. That would become very bewildering. This is called sahajya mentality. Rather, one should simply follow the bhavs of these great bhaktas according to one's own ruchi, otherwise it will be an offense. How unfortunate if some person becomes illusioned to thinking that they are that individual. That means they lose all the quality of service. How can you be serving if you think you're that one? It's what ahanga upasaka. It's making yourself like God practically. Completely offensive, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying. I think these are quite elementary things now. Initially in this chapter, it seemed quite challenging perhaps. But I said at the beginning, as we go through the chapter, Bhaktivinoda Thakur sort of opens it out and makes it more and more accessible as we go through. We have a little bit of knowledge from the beginning, and on the platform of there, he can actually plant some amazing truths in our hearts, and it becomes more simple to appreciate. Brajanath, what type of Raganuga Bhakti do we have the adhikar to adopt? Okay, this is good. Babaji, my son, you should scrutinize your own swabhav, and then you will see the corresponding type of devotion for which you are qualified. Scrutinize our own mood internally. Who are you really? Without any sort of mood of competitiveness. This is not a competition. It's not that to be a servant in Sambandhanuga is inferior to being a maidservant in Kam Anuga. There is some difference from an external point of view, but from an internal point of view, everyone who embraces their own particular swabhav, that is so unique and wonderful. It's not ever that Sridham wants to be a gopi. He is completely satisfied. I explained it to you the other day. It's called Vaishishta. This speciality of our own particular individual rasa is complete in itself. It can't be upgraded, so to speak. We're so used to this material world of this upward mobility type of mentality and almost becoming competitive. But we should understand with some peacefulness that whatever mood we have, that is the most wonderful experience we could ever have. And it's totally sufficient. There's never a time when the Brijbasis want to upgrade. You have your staibhav, that's fixed. So we have to understand this point. It's not a question of competition. Never comes into that. I know sometimes in the material Sangha, etc., the consideration, it's like, it has that sort of like...
You have to have the highest.
Yes, got to have the highest.
Got to get to the top.
Got to get to the top. Well, we do want to get to the top, but the top of our own. Yes, we want to get to the top, and the top is my own particular staibhav, my own swabhav. This is what he's saying. He's saying you should scrutinize your own swabhav, and then you will see the corresponding type of devotion for which you are qualified. And you examine your own swabhav. A particular ruchi will awaken according to your inherent swabhav, and you should pursue the ras that is indicated by that ruchi. In order to cultivate that ras, you should follow one of Krishna's eternal associates, who is perfect in it. Tishten tanuragi chanugami. We said this verse. Tannama rupa charita. Yeah. Tannama rupa charita. This verse from the Upadeshamrita. Rupa Goswami is saying, follow in the wake of that individual Brijbasi who is inspiring you. Therefore, we have to know about the Brijbasis. That's our duty, that's our sadhana, to read the books of the Goswamis, to stay in Vrindavan, at least every Kartik, to get familiar with the mood of even the material Brijbasis who are there now. They have a special potency and strength. And you should pursue the rasa that is indicated in that ruchi. In order to cultivate that rasa, you should follow one of Krishna's eternal associates who is perfect in it. To determine rasa, it is only necessary to examine your own ruchi. If your ruchi is towards the path of rag, then you should act according to that ruchi. And as long as inclination has not awakened for the path of rag, you should simply execute the principles of Vaidhi Bhakti with firm faith. We have that beautiful verse that I've quoted a number of times, this Vaidhi Mag Rata Jane Swadinata Ratna Dane Rag Mag Karuna Parvesh. Krishna eventually bestows the jewel of independence unto those persons who strictly adhere to the path of rules and regulations, thus allowing them entrance into the path of spontaneous loving devotion. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes this in his Kalyana Kalpataru. So that will matter. At the same time, If this path and the direction of Rag Marg is inspired initially when we're beginning our process of bhakti, that indicates your sukriti is very, very good, and you can go directly to Braj. You can go directly to Rag Marg. Some don't have to go through long processes of following those rules and regulations. It depends on the individual. It's not a group thing. We've said so many times this. It's not ever going to be a group consciousness. It's an individual consciousness. This is where the strength is. If it was in the group can break. The group can fracture. You can't be dependent on a group, but you can dependent on your internal staibab, your internal connection with Krishna. That you can, because at the time of death, who is going to be with us? Our mother, father, friend, etc. You know, they might be there in proximity, but in the heart, when we're actually leaving the body, only Krishna and Guru and those special Vaishnavas that we met. Where are we? Sorry?
Firm faith. You should simply execute the principles of Vedic Bhakti with firm faith.
Yes. Vijay. Prabhu, I have been studying Srimad Bhagavatam for a long time, and I listen to Krishna Leela whenever and wherever I find the opportunity. Whenever I deliberate on Krishna Leela, you have to correct me if I'm saying something. My eye, tomorrow, by the way, I'm having an operation, so I won't be doing the class tomorrow, but I've got a cataract growing across, so if I make a typo, correct me straight away. Whenever I deliberate on Krishna Leela, a strong bhav arises within my heart to serve the divine couple as Lalita Devi does. How beautiful. This is Vijay Kumar. This is his mood. Babaji, you need not say anymore. You are a Manjari, young maidservant of Lalita Devi. Which service do you like? Vijay, I desire that Srimati Lalita Devi should grant me permission to string garlands of flowers. I shall string lovely garlands of beautiful delicate flowers and place them in Lalita Sakhi's lotus hands. She will look upon me with an infinitely merciful, love-laden glance, and then she will place the garlands around the necks of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. So this is his internal meditation. Babaji, I give you my blessings that you may attain perfection in the goal for which you are undertaking your sadhana. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is making a big point here, that we have to fix our goal in our sadhana, and we need to be guided by Guru and senior Vaishnavas who are performing Ragamoy sadhana bhakti, because we can't be imagining. You might have an imagination, oh yes, I just want to be a cowherd boy, I just want to be so many, but as we mature in our devotion, then these seeds of our own intrinsic staibhav will start to manifest in our consciousnesses, and our inclination will become very easy to see. We should look for it. What is my natural inclination? What do I like to hear? You know? We've got to examine ourselves. No one's going to do it for you. When Vijay heard Babaji Mahashai's affectionate benediction, he fell at the lotus feet of his preceptor and wept. Seeing his emotional state, Babaji said, go on continually practicing Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti with this same feeling, and externally follow the conduct laid down according to the rules of Vaidhi sadhana-bhakti in a regular way. Another very important point. Yes, you don't suddenly think, oh yes, I'm a Manjari, and then we give up Ekadashi, we give up Janmashtami, we give up all these festivals and all the various angas that we've gone through carefully, those 64 angas. No, they have to be followed. Like I've said many times, Raghunath Das is our Prayojanacharya, and he describes that he has the lines of Vaidhi Bhakti like carved in stone within him. Never transgresses. My Guru Dev was exactly the same. Never would transgress for a single moment. Younger devotees do like that. Immature devotees will suddenly say, oh, I don't have to do that. It's Raganuga Bhakti. It's spontaneous, Prabhu. Rubbish. And we should pray for them and try to bring them into the path of education. First of all, people need to be educated. Once you're educated and you know that these rules and regulations, they've been gifted by the sages to support our journey into Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti. And they're always there, supporting. When Brajanath saw Vijay Kumar's spiritual wealth, he folded his hands and humbly said, "My master, whenever I meditate on Krishna's pastimes, a desire arises in my heart to serve him by following in the footsteps of Subal. Babaji, which service do you like?" Brajanath, when the calves wander far off to graze, I would very much like to bring them back in the company of Subal. When Krishna sits in a place to play upon his flute, I will take the permission of Subal to let the cows drink water, and then I will bring them to buy brother Krishna. This is my heart's desire. Very beautiful. Babaji, I give you the benediction that you will attain Krishna's service as a follower of Subal. Subal is a Priyanam Saka. You are eligible to cultivate the sentiment of friendship, Sakya Ras. It is wonderful that from that day on, within within Vijay Kumar's mind, the feeling began to sprout that he was a maidservant, Dasi, of Srimati Lalita Devi, and he began to look upon Sri Babaji Maharaj as the personification of Sri Lalita Devi. Vijay, O Master, what more remains to be known about this subject? Please give your order. It's very interesting. We should appreciate now, because for the rest of the book, up until about chapter 30 or 32, Brajanath is going to be there. Huh?
Brajanath or Vijay Kumar?
Brajanath will be there. And Vijay Kumar. But Vijay Kumar goes further. Vijay Kumar takes the last 7 or 8 chapters exclusively, because his bar is different to Brajanath's. So there's actually going to be a separation that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going to bring out clearly here, because they're not completely the same at one point. That Sambandha Nuga that we've just described, it's going to branch off, yes. And that Karma Nuga needs to be cultivated in an exceptionally special way. So that's what's going to be described in the last portion.
Vijay, O Master.
O Master, Vijay, O Master, what more remains to be known about this subject? Please give your order. Babaji, nothing more remains. My Gurudev used to say all this time. No, there's nothing more to say. That's actually it. What more remains is for us to practice it. That's what remains. Not just to talk, but to actually practice our sadhana bhajan carefully. Nothing more remains. You need only know the name, form, dress, and so on, these Ekadash bhavs, of your Siddha Sarir, your spiritual body. Come to me alone at another time, and I shall tell you all these things. Vijay Kumar offered Dandavat pranams at the feet of his preceptor and replied, "As my master pleases." From that day on, Brajanath began to look upon Babaji as the personification of Subal. Babaji said to Brajanath, "You also come to me alone at another time, and I will tell you the name, form, dress, and ornaments of your spiritual body." How incredible. Brajanath offered Dandavat pranams and said, "As my master pleases." They're completely submissive. This is the first quality of Shishya, of the disciple. This Tadvidi Pranipatena, Pranipashena Sevaya, Upadekshayanti Jnanam, Jnaninas Tatvadarshanaha. That this total submission to, and always remember that Guru is the embodiment of Guru Varga. All our Guru Varga is residing in Guru. If we're worshipping closely Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I'm understanding that my Gurudev is recipient of the current of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. All the currents of all our Guru Varga are within the point. We have connected to the power current through a particular personality. That has to go on. If we don't connect, how will these truths unfold? They actually won't unfold. Brajanath and Vijay Kumar acknowledged their great good fortune, and from that day on, they happily engage in their spiritual practice of Raganuga-sadhana. They're not saying that they're Ragatmikas because they've been bestowed their spiritual identities. They're Raganuga-sadhana. Externally, everything remained as before. That means they're following the rules and regulations. But their inner emotions had changed. Read it carefully. Externally, Vijay Kumar behaved only as a man, but internally, he was imbued with the female nature, Stri Bhav, while within Brajanath appeared the inherent Swabhav of a cowherd boy. Internally. The night was far advanced. Both of them returned home, chanting on their Japamala, the Mahamantra, that they had received from their preceptor, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It was midnight, and the lovely moonlight appeared like a shower of whitish silver upon the earth. An intoxicating breeze blew from the Malayan mountains, creating a very pleasant sensation for the mind. They sat down together beneath an amala tree in a beautiful, secluded place near Lakshman Tila and began a discussion. Lakshman Tila is near the yoga pit. It's just on the other side. Vijay, Brajanath, our heart's desires have been fulfilled. We shall certainly be blessed by Krishna's mercy, by the grace of the Vaishnavas. Let us now, it's almost like they've just won the lottery. They've got the complete treasure, right? This conclusion of this chapter, Babaji has just given them the entire treasure, because this is going to be the last time when Babaji is really instructing them. In the next 3 chapters will be Nam Tattva, and they're not actually the Dasmula. They call them the Prameya, but actually it's not the Prameya. They're not part of the Prameya. I'll explain that later. This is the last concluding chapter of Dasmula. Vijay, Brajanath, our heart's desires have been fulfilled. We shall certainly be blessed with Krishna's mercy by the grace of the Vaishnavas. Let us now decide our future course of action. Tell me frankly what you want to do. Do you want to marry, or do you want to become a mendicant? I don't want to put any pressure on you. I just want you to let me know your real intention so that I can communicate with your mother. Communicate it to your mother. Brajanath, Uncle, I regard you very highly, and beside that, you are an erudite scholar and a Vaishnava. You have been my guardian since my father passed away, and I am prepared to act according to your order. I am nervous about marriage because I don't want to become entangled in the material world and fall down from my realization of the supreme spiritual reality. What is your opinion? So he's a very sane personality, Brajanath. Vijay, I don't want to impose anything on you. You have to decide for yourself. Brajanath, it will be proper for me to receive Gurudev's instruction and act accordingly. This is most fitting. Why is Bhaktivinoda Thakur bringing in this? Almost seems like mundane after this, Brajaras discussion. It seems to, but it's coming down into the reality of their practice in the world. They are in bodies, and they do have to attend to their particular ashrams, etc. They do have to go through their lives. They do have to address this. We're not just running off into the hills and closing all the doors on our lives. We have to interact as long as we're not fully realized. When we're totally self-realized, then perhaps our interactions will be much more minimal with the material world. But at whatever point we're at, we have to attend to our material responsibilities. If you have children, wife, family, etc., they all have to be taken care of properly, responsibly. It's not that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, yes, everyone, just drop your material situation, your social situation, and leave. No, that's not right at all. That's not right at all. Brajanath, it will be proper for me to receive Gurudev's instruction and act accordingly. This is the right way. To go and see Gurudev and ask him, what does he say about this? Vijay, that's a good idea. Tomorrow we shall take Prabhupada's decision on this subject. So he's calling him Prabhupada. Brajanath, uncle, what is your consideration? Will you remain as a grihasta or become a mendicant? Vijay, my son, like you, I am also undecided. I sometimes think of giving up grihasta dharma and becoming a mendicant. And sometimes I think that if I do so, my heart may become dried up, so that I am deprived of bhakti ras as well. I think it is appropriate to take Sri Gurudev's order on this, in this regard, and act accordingly. I shall do as he instructs me. So both are demonstrating their complete submissiveness. They've given their independence to Guru. That's the greatest thing you can offer to Guru, to give your independence. Then Guru can really pour into your heart everything that he has. Realizing that the night was far advanced, uncle and nephew returned home chanting Harinam. Then after honoring Prasad, they took rest. So this is the end of the 21st chapter. And there's a footnote here. I'll just read this footnote. This is a verse from the Bhagavatam 10:29-8. This 29 chapter of the 10th canto is the Ras Lila, the beginning of the Ras Lila. So even though the Nityasiddha gopis were forbidden by their husbands, fathers, mothers, and brothers, they did not stop because they were enchanted, their hearts already having been stolen by Sri Govinda. In this regard, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:23-20 is also worth studying. So all of these footnotes are by my Gurudev, Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. So he's indicating to us our further absorption and study in these topics. If one is interested in Raganuga-sadhana-bhakti, in the Kam Anuga stage, then there are so many chapters within the Srimad Bhagavatam that are unpacked, especially from the 21st chapter. There's the 5 Geets. If your inclination is towards Sakyaras, then perhaps not much more than the 21st chapter is going to be necessary for you. The 21st chapter is the Venu Geet. And then there's the Pranaya Geet, which is the 29th chapter. And then there's the Gopi Geet, just after that, the 32nd chapter. And then there's the, is the Gopi Geet the 30th chapter? I forgot. 30th or 31st? Gopi Geet chapter number. And then after that is Yugal Geet, which is chapter 35. Then after that is Brahmara Geet, which is chapter 47. So these are all Geets. And these Geets are all moods of separation. These separation moods, which is the meeting and separation are, it's completely 50-50. If you look at the time sequence, I've got a map I can share with you of the 8 praharas of the day, the Astakalya Lila. It's divided into 24 hours. 12 hours, there's meeting. There's intimate meeting. Nishanta Lila is approximately 2.5 hours. And then Madhyana Lila is 5 hours. And Ratri Lila is 5 hours. That makes 12 hours. These are intimate pastimes of union. And then the separation pastimes in Purvana Lila, Apurvana Lila, Prata Lila first, then Purvana Lila, then Apurvana Lila, afternoon pastimes, and then Syayam Lila, and then Pradosh. These 5, they also add to exactly 12 hours, if you do the calculation. And we understand that the bliss or anand that is achieved by union is exactly the same as in Mohan. Mohan is separation mood, and Madan is meeting mood. We have Madan, Mohan. So we have Madan, and the exhilaration of that bliss is exactly the same as the bliss within Mohan. It's different. There's a speciality in each, but the degree of bliss that is within each is the same. And I've described many times, because it's if you look at it just analytically, there are these sattvika bhavs, 8 sattvika bhavs. And if these sattvika bhavs are described as fully blazing, they are called Adiruddha Mahabhav, or Adiruddha in Modan and Adiruddha in Madan. So actually the bliss is exactly the same in both, but the dynamic is completely different. In the separation mood, there is so much genuine lamentation, which transforms into the complete blissful experience ultimately. For the sadhak, our mood is in separation, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came demonstrating in sadhak form. And principally when he went to Puri, all the pastimes are of a vipralamba mood. All, maybe once or twice he actually has darshan of Krishna, but all the rest are vipralamba. All his ecstatic manifestations, etc., are all in moods of separation. Where is Krishna? This hankering, this lobha moyi, this greed, this desire, this hunger. When you're actually dancing with Krishna, that hunger is satiated because you've actually realized the fruit of your desire. But that mood of hunger is creating great enthusiasm within the heart. And this is essential for the union to manifest. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj describes like 2 banks of a river. One is Vipralamba and one is Sambhog. They're both very, very important to appreciate. This is a whole nother topic which will be explained more in the subsequent chapters later on. But I'm just expressing something then now. So that's the end of this chapter, and I'm going to publish, with Vera Prabhu's permission, when he's my friend here has made a very nice PowerPoint presentation of this chapter 21. So after a day or so, when it's nicely tuned, we will publish, and it's a beautiful step-by-step, totally authentic description of this 21st chapter in note form. It'll really help the devotees, I think, encapsulate the different topics that are brought out and opened out for our meditation. So the next 3 chapters will be we've got the Bhav Bhakti. Yes, Bhav Bhakti is the final Prameya. I was jumping ahead there. The Nam Tattvas, these are not really Prameyas, but this next chapter is about Bhav Bhakti. Chapter 22, a most excellent, beautiful chapter. But I want everyone to know that I won't be doing the class tomorrow. Tomorrow I have to go for this cataract operation, and I was hoping to be able to do the class, but I'm told that it'll be a great strain on the eye, and that's not what is encouraged after you've had that operation. So I'm hoping that by Wednesday I'll be able to read normally, perhaps with not so many typos. But so tomorrow I won't be doing the class, and then we can study this chapter 22. I'll put the narration on the WhatsApp, and yes, that's all. Hopefully I'll be back on Wednesday to carry on. So just one more thing to share is that today I just received these posters of the Das Mula poster, and anyone who comes to visit me gets a free copy. So I have 500 of them, and I also have these stickers with the Das Mula stickers. So anyone who comes to visit, they get a sticker, 100%. Because we can't send them. I guess in your own countries you'll make these things yourself if you want them. But I think it's very helpful, especially if someone's just beginning this Das Mula, to fix it clearly on the way it unfolds. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is miraculous, total genius, unfolding this. So Jaiva Dharma ki jai.